The damage is already irreversible. A secret has been set loose upon the world. Now the truth awakens. "I'll help myself." Lin Feng's loud and imposing voice resonated in the atmosphere. People's expression became rigid when they heard him. Help himself? Lin Feng, relying on his strength of the Ling Qi layer, intended to fight against a cultivator of the Xuan Qi layer. Was that even possible? However, at that moment, Lin Feng's eyes looked sharp. He looked extremely frivolous, and it didn't seem like he was joking. He would have never joked about such things anyway. Meng Qing and Mr. Hua wanted to fight against Bing He Teng and Mo Kang Lan. The bald leader was left, and someone had to fight against him. Lin Feng had no choice but to fight against him. No matter if he wanted to fight or not, he had to. "He's going to fight against someone of the Xuan Qi layer," whispered the crowd. They looked impatient. They were wondering who would win, Lin Feng or the cultivator of the Xuan Qi layer. But they, of course, thought that the bald leader would win. They just thought that Lin Feng had no choice but to fight, that he was forcing himself to be brave, that's all. Lin Feng was a genius and had high natural talent, but how could he compete with a cultivator of the Xuan Qi layer? Lin Feng had absolutely no chance of victory. However, the two other battles were going to be worth watching. When the bald leader heard Lin Feng's words, a cold and evil expression appeared in his eyes. Lin Feng was going to help himself. Lin Feng was humiliating him. A cultivator of the Ling Qi layer surprisingly dared to fight against him. "How long will you need to kill him?" said Mo Kang Lan coldly while looking at the bald leader. In Mo Kang Lan's opinion, Lin Feng would never be able to defeat the bald leader. Lin Feng just wanted to rush to his own death, that's all. A light flashed in the bald leader's eyes, and he immediately said, "If nobody else interrupts, I will definitely kill him within 10 moves. By saying 10 moves, he was taking precautions in case anything went wrong, but he would normally need much less. How could he not win against a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer? "All right, let's see if you kill him in 10 moves, HMPH." Mo Kang Lan coldly groaned, which made the bald leader's heartbeat accelerate. His face was filled with murderous intentions. He had to kill Lin Feng in 10 moves. Otherwise, Mo Kang Lan would be furious and it would be bad for him. Mo Kang Lan was really frightening. A year before, Mo Kang Lan had conquered the Condor Castle organization by himself. He would never forget that terrifying event. An insanely brutal and sharp qi filled the atmosphere while emitting whistling sounds. Behind the bald leader's body appeared an illusionary spirit. The illusion was a beast, more precisely an eagle. Its two piercingly cold eyes were staring at Lin Feng. "Within 10 moves, I will definitely kill him," said the bald leader coldly. In order to ensure his victory, he immediately released his spirit. He was definitely going to kill Lin Feng. Mo Kang Lan laughed and took a step forwards and released an incredible qi which immediately enveloped Mr. Hua's body. Mr. Hua was fixedly staring at him, unable to react. At the same time, Bing He Teng also released some ice qi. Ice and frost appeared in the atmosphere and covered a huge area. The ambient temperature immediately fell. It was incredibly cold. These two people were blocking Meng Qing and Mr. Hua. The crowd would be able to witness Lin Feng's death. Within 10 moves, Lin Feng would die. 10 moves, said Lin Feng, whose eyes didn't look sharp anymore. Instead, he looked calm. He was in fusion with the earth. Nothing could affect his state of mind. Every single thing that was surrounding him was perfectly clear and distinct in his mind. Everything belonged to his world, and he was in fusion with everything around him. Boom! The bald leader stamped onto the ground, and a crack appeared in the ground. He jumped up in the air and raised a monstrous blade. The sound of an eagle spread through the air, and bald leader's body suddenly started to swoop down. His silhouette turned into a bright light rushed towards Lin Feng. While he soared through the sky, he had almost reached Lin Feng, but Lin Feng wasn't reacting. How sinister, what a devious trick! The crowd was astonished. The bald leader's previous move had led everybody to think that he was going to focus on the power of his attack to win, but instead he adjusted his body and swooped down with incredible speed. He hadn't waited for his power to reach its maximum. Instead, he was swooping from the sky, not giving Lin Feng the time to react. That way he would be able to kill Lin Feng in one hit. However, to Lin Feng, who was in fusion with the earth, that seemed like a joke. If it had indeed been extremely quick, then it might have worked, but his speed wouldn't be close to enough. In Lin Feng's mind, the bald leader's actions were almost in slow motion, and he saw every movement clearly. The bald leader's body released a soft light as it soared on the wind. A huge rumbling sound spread in the atmosphere. The broadsword in the bald leader's hand shot down from the sky at a terrifying speed and slammed into the ground, creating a huge crevice beneath it. However, Lin Feng was no longer there and had already moved away, looking at the scene indifferently. "One move," said Lin Feng indifferently. The crowd was stupefied. Lin Feng was counting the moves. The bald leader was stupefied. He raised his head and coldly looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng had reacted very quickly. He was very fast. The bald leader jumped through the air like an eagle. His broadsword moved straight towards Lin Feng. The light emitted by the blade was swift and filled with pure qi. 2 moves, 3 moves, 4 moves, 5 moves. Lin Feng's silhouette was unceasingly flickering. The light of the broadsword kept passing by him but never reached his body. Each time, Lin Feng dodged the attack by a hair. The most shocking part was that Lin Feng was counting and dodging at the same time. A huge rumbling noise filled the atmosphere. The broadsword violently and heavily smashed into the ground. Lin Feng had dodged an attack again, looking light and relaxed. That was the 6th move. What a terrifying dodging ability! A moment ago, the 5 first moves had been monstrously fierce and powerful, but Lin Feng had dodged them easily. Surprisingly, he hadn't been touched once. His agility techniques were monstrously powerful. 6 moves! The crowd was astonished. Even though Lin Feng had dodged after the 6th attack, the bald leader still hadn't managed to touch Lin Feng. Only 4 moves were remaining. The bald leader was dumbstruck. He was blankly staring at Lin Feng. He didn't care about his broadsword anymore. A golden color appeared around his body. It was filled with pure qi which was being released from his body. At that moment, he was realizing that Lin Feng was too quick. He knew that Lin Feng's power was terrifying. It seemed like Lin Feng was controlling everything. He could dodge the attacks as he wished. It seemed so mysterious. Even though the bald leader's attacks were all strong, they weren't able to reach Lin Feng at all. "Iga!" In the air, a sharp and high-pitched eagle cry emerged. It was piercingly sharp in everyone's ears. The bald leader was attacking again. He had transformed into a golden light that was dazzling to the eyes. His body looked like it was inside a golden eagle. At that moment, the bald leader had transformed into an eagle. Lin Feng raised his head. His silhouette flickered, and looking elegant and graceful, he moved away. However, that eagle illusion was closely following him at incredible speed. It was leaving a trail of light behind it, as if there was gold filling the sky. It was extremely beautiful. Lin Feng slightly frowned, and his silhouette kept flickering. However, at that moment, it seemed like the bald man's spirit had merged with his body. His soul was probably extremely strong. He was closely following Lin Feng, determined to kill him in under 10 moves. An incredible quantity of sword qi emerged in the air. It was so sharp. That sword energy seemed like it had appeared out of nowhere. PSSHHH? Lin Feng's hand was piercing through the atmosphere. There was no sword in his hand, but the crowd could see that it was as if his hand had become a sword. It would really be able to pierce through people. That qi was clearly not as powerful as the eagle. Boom! The golden eagle and the hand collided. The sword energy was destroyed, and Lin Feng's body was projected back a few dozen meters. A cultivator of the Ling Qi layer fighting against a cultivator of the Xuan Qi layer inevitably encountered a difference in strength. 7 moves, said Lin Feng. He raised his head. He still looked calm. 3 moves left. Let's see if you can block them. At that moment, the bald leader's facial expression was extremely evil. He had broken through to the Xuan Qi layer. He should easily be able to defeat Lin Feng, who was only of the Ling Qi layer. "I will definitely block them," said Lin Feng coldly. An incredible battle energy started burning around his body. Apart from the battle energy, he also released some sword qi and deadly qi. At the same time, behind Lin Feng emerged a purple lake which was bubbling and foaming. The bald leader was furious. Lin Feng had become angry. On that day, new people had unceasingly been coming to kill Lin Feng. Everybody was coming to kill him and looking down on him as if he had no choice but to die. How could Lin Feng not be furious? Would the 10 moves be enough to kill him? He wants to fight. Lin Feng wants to fight. When the crowd sensed Lin Feng deadly qi and battle energy, they couldn't help but shiver. What an insane young man. Even though he had only broken through to the Ling Qi layer, and thus his level largely differed from that of his opponent. His determination and willpower were unwavering. He followed his beliefs without hesitation. The bald leader had asked Lin Feng how he intended to block the last 3 attacks, but why did he not consider that Lin Feng also had the ability to attack? The bald leader was stupefied as well. Lin Feng wanted to attack him. He had decided to stop dodging and fight. The eagle silhouette was emitting a dazzling golden light. It was unceasingly absorbing more pure qi. Lin Feng was courting death. At that moment, Lin Feng raised his head and looked at the sky. He stretched his arm out and shouted coldly, "Sword!" When he finished speaking, a sword appeared in Lin Feng's hand. It was made from pure qi and contained some deadly qi as well. It looked like the sword of a war god. At that moment, Lin Feng's body was like an extremely sharp sword. His body was releasing incredible amounts of sword qi and battle energy. The battle energy and sword qi is much stronger than a moment ago when he killed the other leader of the Condor Castle organization. The crowd was astonished. At that moment, Lin Feng was releasing an incredibly strong sword qi and battle energy. It seemed like he was planning to kill. "That's only a simple sword made of pure qi, nothing more," said the bald leader while smiling coldly. Around his body, the flowing pure qi was emitting a dazzling golden light. He raised his head and cried just like an eagle, which made the crowd grow excited. Once a cultivator had broken through to the Xuan Qi layer, his spirit became more and more lifelike. A stronger spirit was extremely useful during a battle and helped to increase cultivation speed as well. At that moment, the bald leader seemed like he had become an eagle. He also possessed the precise vision of an eagle. When cultivators reached a certain level of cultivation, the latent energy of their spirit increased. Therefore, if a cultivator had a beast spirit, that beast spirit would be growing until it became monstrously strong and revealed its true powers. "Oh, is that so? Only a sword made of pure qi, nothing more," said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. He then took a step forwards. His sword and deadly energies were getting stronger and stronger. "Die!" shouted Lin Feng. The battle energy left Lin Feng's body and rolled through the atmosphere. It was moving towards the bald leader at full speed. The crowd was astonished. Even though they were standing far away, they could sense Lin Feng's battle energy. It was extremely powerful. Lin Feng was fearless. All that was going through his mind was to kill his opponent. At that moment, Lin Feng looked like a warlord. "Die!" shouted the bald leader, whose voice was as sharp as that of an eagle's cry. His body transformed into a myriad of shadows, which all moved towards Lin Feng. "Ee!" Behind Lin Feng, his purple spirit suddenly appeared. It turned into 100 snakes, which all moved towards the bald leader and curled around his body, completely constricting him. The bald leader was shaking. The strength of the spirit could be sensed in the air. "Swallow!" shouted Lin Feng. These small snakes turned into a large, venomous snake and started devouring the strength of the eagle spirit. These snake spirits were extremely corrosive, and it seemed like they were going to melt all the pure qi that was surrounding the bald leader's body. "Break!" furiously shouted the bald leader. His pure qi turned into a huge blade and rushed towards one of the snake illusions, piercing the purple spirit. However, immediately after, the myriad of purple snakes seemed to go into a frenzy. They formed a spiral around the bald leader and then started spinning at the speed of light. The strength of that spirit seemed incredible. Its movement seemed so precise and accurate. "Rise!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. A deadly light flashed in his eyes. 100 purple snakes suddenly curled around the bald leader's body, constricting him again. Lin Feng was relying on the strength of his spirit, which he made curl around the bald leader's body. The crowd was gasping with astonishment when they saw the scene. Lin Feng looked like a majestic war god. What a strong spirit. Lin Feng was so strong. His strange spirit seemed like it could transform itself as many times as he wished. This time, 100 purple snakes had appeared and were all absorbing the leader's vitality. Besides, they were very useful to Lin Feng as they were constricting the bald leader's body. However, what the crowd didn't know was that Lin Feng, in order to carry out such precise attacks, had suffered incredible pain when using the surplus soul technique. He was releasing his surplus souls, which he then merged with his purple spirit. That was the only way for him to reach such a monstrous strength. His attack was also extremely accurate. He was controlling 100 snakes at the same time and using them all to consume the leader's vitality. The vitality was nourishment for his soul. Lin Feng's eyes were closed, and he had the feeling that his soul was still too weak. This was the first time he was using such a colossal amount of his soul strength. Nonetheless, he couldn't stand it. It was too hard for him to control. Actually, Lin Feng couldn't imagine creating millions of surplus souls. Forget about billions. It sounded like a monstrous punishment to the body. Lin Feng, even though his eyes were closed, was releasing his battle energy. It was extremely dense. He was also endlessly releasing sword qi. It seemed like his sword was about ready to attack. At the same time, the face of the bald leader, who was still constricted by the snakes, turned rigid. His powerful pure chi turned into a resplendent blade. "Slash!" shouted the bald leader furiously. His blade diffused a bright and dazzling light in the atmosphere. The purple spirit around his body was finally cut off and collapsed. But at that moment, Lin Feng's eyes, which were closed, slowly started to open. "Deadly cross shadow?" An incredible light in the shape of a cross appeared. Everybody couldn't believe their eyes. The crowd couldn't even follow it with their eyes, as the attack was way too quick. There was only some battle energy, deadly chi and sword chi that could be sensed. The cross disappeared as quickly as it appeared, and blood splashed through the air. The crowd was astonished when they saw the bald leader had fallen onto the ground. A large cross mark had appeared on his chest. It was pouring with blood. The powerful chi, the earth fusion, his godly sword, his purple spirit, and the deadly cross shadow were all separate parts of Lin Feng's counterattack. Lin Feng's sword made from pure chi wasn't just a simple sword. That sword contained an incredible amount of battle energy. 8 moves, you still have 2 more, said Lin Feng, which broke the silence. 8 moves, there were still 2 more moves, but the loser was already clear, and it wasn't Lin Feng, but instead it was the bald leader. In 10 moves, who would kill whom? The bald leader was using pure chi to heal his wounds, but at that moment he was already completely dispirited and depressed. The cross was glowing on his chest, and his injury wasn't only external. The powerful sword chi had also invaded his body through the wound and damaged his internal organs. What a monstrous attack! What an amazing young man! People's hearts were pounding. Lin Feng was monstrously strong. Nothing was happening the way they had predicted. Lin Feng, once again, was giving birth to miracles. One strike, he had just needed a single strike, and his strength of the Ling Chi layer defeated a cultivator of the Xuan Chi layer. That sword had completely changed people's perception of Lin Feng. Lin Feng had defeated a cultivator of the Xuan Chi layer, and from that moment, they truly admired him. Lights were unceasingly flashing in Lan Jiao's eyes. She was staring at Lin Feng. What a daring young man. No wonder that her 1,000 evil illusions hadn't worked against him. Lin Feng wasn't an ordinary person. He was an incredible genius. Besides, at that moment, Bing He Teng's killing intent was exploding in his heart as he thought, how monstrous! Lin Feng really was a monster. He was much more frightening than all the disciples they had at the Ice and Snow Mountain Village. If the Yun Hai sect hadn't been exterminated, a disciple such as Lin Feng would have inevitably reached an even more monstrous level with the aid of a teacher. That guy had to die? Piece of trash, shouted Mo Kang Lan's evil voice. He moved to attack. At the same time, Mr. Huo moved as well, closely following him. He wouldn't give him an opportunity to attack Lin Feng. However, the person towards whom Mo Kang Lan was rushing wasn't Lin Feng at all. Instead, it was the bald leader. "No!" shouted the bald leader as if he had just realized what was about to happen. His body was insanely shaking. He tried to escape, but at that moment, vines curled around his body, constricting him. In a flash, that vine turned into a blood-sucking plant monster, absorbing the bald leader's blood and flesh. The bald leader's blood and flesh was circulating through a system of the vines and then penetrating straight into Mo Kang Lan's body. The crowd was astonished and their hearts were pounding. What a terrifying skill. Mo Kang Lan's vines were surprisingly absorbing the bald leader's flesh, blood, and pure chi. The bald leader's face was distorted in pain, and he looked terrified. His body was violently shaking, but one could see that he was powerless. However, Mo Kang Lan looked like a greedy demon who was enjoying the taste of human flesh. Every member of the Condor Castle organization was incredibly scared of Mo Kang Lan. They were all violently shaking. He was a true demon. Their great leader was a demon. Even in their most horrible thoughts, they would have never imagined that such an evil skill existed before they met him. A moment later, the bald leader's body had turned into a pile of skin and bones. His skin and bones were all that was left on the ground. Mo Kang Lan recalled his vines back into his body, and at that moment, took a deep breath while looking intoxicated with a euphoric happiness. Animal, Lin Feng's facial expression was ice cold. Mo Kang Lan, who had helped with the destruction of the Yun Hai sect, had surprisingly learnt such demonic skills. That evil skill enabled the cultivator to swallow blood, flesh, and pure chi. Once all these things had been extracted from the cultivator, they turned into a pile of skin and bones. Besides, Mo Kang Lan had immediately swallowed everything without hesitation. How evil was that? Even though cultivators were usually ready to do most things to become stronger, they still set themselves some limits. Otherwise, what would be the difference between humans and beasts? Many people couldn't stand thinking about such an evil skill. Of course, there were also many people who were gasping in amazement at the evil skill. If they ever had the opportunity to obtain it, they would be delighted to learn and practice it. This was the world of cultivation. Only strength mattered, and it came with a price. Mo Kang Lan evilly glanced at Lin Feng and said while laughing, "Don't worry, I'll swallow the old man and then it'll be your turn." When he finished talking, he looked at Mr. Huo. Mr. Huo remained vigilant. Mo Kang Lan's evil skill was way too deviant. Mr. Huo had to be very careful. "Lin Feng, get a bit farther away from here," said Mr. Huo, as his body was suddenly surrounded by small balls of fire. They were burning with an intense heat as they rotated around his body. At that moment, he didn't look crooked and sluggish. He looked like a god of fire. These bright and resplendent fireballs contained traces of pure qi. "All right," said Lin Feng while nodding. He moved back. Lin Feng could defeat cultivators of the first or second Chuan Qi layer, but the third Chuan Qi layer was already too much for him. He wasn't strong enough, therefore he was happy that Mr. Huo was there to fight for him. "HMPH, third Chuan Qi layer, that'll be a delicious meal," said Mo Kang Lan while smiling evilly. Two vines emerged from his body and moved towards Mr. Huo to constrict his body. However, at that moment, two fireballs appeared in Mr. Huo's hands. He raised both of his hands, and these two fireballs transformed into two dragons, which immediately bombarded the atmosphere, moving straight towards these vines. Surprisingly, the vines started burning when coming into contact with the fire dragons. On the other side, Bing He Teng was attacking as well. Snowflakes were fluttering in the wind. Ice and frost were gradually covering the ground. It was his world of ice and snow skill, which really caused the atmosphere to turn into a world of ice and snow. However, that terrifying coldness didn't affect Meng Qing at all. She did not feel cold. Actually, that attack had the opposite effect, and even gave Meng Qing a pleasant and refreshing feeling. That pure and holy girl looked like a celestial being. Meng Qing was an expert when it came to ice. How could ice and snow energy affect her? It only made her stronger. "Frozen earth," said Bing He Teng in a low voice. Immediately, a layer white ice and frost covered the ground. It was becoming thicker and thicker. The entire atmosphere had turned into a frozen world. "How cold!" The crowd was shaking. People of the ice and snow mountain village were experts at using ice and snow-based skills. Obviously, it wasn't just a rumor. That frozen world skill was monstrously powerful. Meng Qing's silhouette flickered. She elegantly jumped into the air. Immediately after, an explosion sound resonated in the atmosphere. The ice where she was just standing had exploded. Many icicles shot up from the ground at that moment. Everybody was narrowing their eyes. Bing He Teng had made icicles to burst from the ground. He had used the ice from ground under Meng Qing's feet to carry out a surprise attack. What a sly method. "Celestial ice," said Bing He Teng while shaking both his hands. Ice and snow were blotting out the sky. It seemed like everything had become ice and snow. "Endless frost," said Meng Qing. A layer of ice qi immediately appeared in the air. In a flash, both her and Bing He Teng's bodies were covered with frost. The atmosphere was filled with an endless coldness which made everybody shake. Lin Feng was looking at the two battles which contained 4 cultivators of the Xuan Qi layer who were fighting with each other. Mr. Huo and Mo Kang Lan had both broken through to the 3rd Xuan Qi layer. Besides, they both had lots of experience, considering their respective ages. They were both seniors in the world of cultivation. Mr. Huo's 2 fireballs were fluttering in the wind in a rhythm with his heartbeats. Mo Kang Lan's vines were unable to approach Mr. Huo's fireballs. It would be very difficult for Mo Kang Lan to defeat Mr. Huo. Besides, even though Meng Qing didn't have the same experience as her opponent, Lin Feng wasn't worried about her. Her body filled with a powerful ice qi. How could she be scared of ice and frost? Besides, she was extremely strong. Lin Feng didn't clearly understand how strong she was because each time he saw her fight, it seemed like she was stronger than the previous time. It seemed like the people of the Condor Castle organization and the Ice and Snow Mountain Village would all be very busy fighting on that day. The crowd also had the impression that things were changing too fast. The features of the terrain were constantly undergoing drastic changes. Besides, each time they thought that Lin Feng was going to get killed, it wasn't happening at all. The scariest part was that the people of the Condor Castle organization were even working together against Lin Feng. But Lin Feng was, as always, able to shock everyone. Lin Feng turned around and looked at the people who had come along with Bing He Teng. On his face appeared a cold and evil smile. Amongst these people, none of them were at the Xianxia lair. When these people saw that Lin Feng was looking at them, their facial expressions became rigid. Immediately after, a cold energy enveloped their bodies. Lin Feng wants to kill them. The hearts of these people on white horses started to pound. Lin Feng was able to defeat a cultivator of the Xianxia lair. Fighting him was way too dangerous for them. Lin Feng started moving and slowly walked towards them. All these people's bodies went stiff with fear. "What are you planning on doing?" said a member of the Ice and Snow Mountain village towards Lin Feng. Immediately after, fear appeared on his face. "What am I doing?" A mocking expression appeared on his face. All these people had traveled over such a huge distance for the sole purpose of killing him, and now they were asking him what he was planning on doing. These people wanted to kill him. Of course, that Lin Feng planned to kill them in return. Nobody spoke any more nonsense. Behind Lin Feng's body appeared a vast and roaring purple lake which hovered in the air. "It doesn't look good." When the people of the Ice and Snow Mountain village saw the purple spirit emerge, their facial expressions changed drastically. Lin Feng's spirit was enough to constrict a cultivator of the Xianxia lair, so it was obviously strong enough to use against them. They turned their horses around and they wanted to leave. They didn't intend to fight back at all. Lin Feng smiled coldly. His spirit launched itself through the air. Countless small purple snakes emerged and attacked at the speed of light. In a flash, the small snakes had constricted their bodies, and immediately after the purple lake swallowed them. They were all drowning into the immense purple lake. "Ah!" Horrible shrieks spread through the atmosphere. These members of the Ice and Snow Mountain village were drowning in the lake, and their bodies were melting as if the lake was acid. They were desperately and hopelessly shouting in agony as their skin and flesh was melting. Did they want to die? They had come with the great elder of the Ice and Snow Mountain village, Bing He Teng. How majestic. However, something they had never imagined, even in their dreams, was that a cultivator of the Ling Chi lair would become their worst nightmare in Celestial River. "Will you dare?" At that moment, Bing He Teng's voice was ice cold as he watched the scene unfold. He had brought all the outstanding disciples with him. He had brought them to acquire experience, and Lin Feng was going to kill them all. Bing He Teng left Meng Qing behind and threw himself towards Lin Feng at full speed while releasing a vast amount of ice chi. However, Meng Qing wouldn't let him touch Lin Feng. Both her hands shook, her soul was palpitating from nervousness. Meng Qing's body released a gigantic amount of ice chi. The crowd could even see her nervous expression. "Frozen heart," said Meng Qing. The strength of her ice chi bombarded the atmosphere. Bing He Teng started shaking violently. He abruptly turned around, however, at that moment he groaned in agony. His black hair was covered with frost. "You want to kill me, but you thought that I wouldn't dare to offend you. What world would that even be possible?" said Lin Feng coldly as his purple spirit moved back inside his body. However, all the members of the Ice and Snow Mountain village had disappeared from sight, and there was no traces of them to be found. Bing He Teng's face turned deathly pale. His face was filled with murderous intent. However, at that moment, he was fighting against Meng Qing. Immediately after, his killing intent became even more intense. Meng Qing, as before, was preventing him from approaching Lin Feng. Her eyes were filled with calm and serenity. Her heart seemed like it was made of ice. "The members of the Ice and Snow Village Mountain have been massacred for offending Lin Feng," thought the crowd. At the beginning, they had come for the sole purpose of killing Lin Feng, but in the end, they were the ones who had been killed. After that, Bing He Teng tried to kill Lin Feng, but at that moment, he was injured by Meng Qing. Besides, all his most outstanding disciples had been killed. The Ice and Snow Mountain Village wasn't the only group which had been punished for offending Lin Feng. The Condor Castle organization had suffered as well. The two vice leaders of the Condor Castle organization were both at the Xianxia lair. The first one had entered the restaurant and was killed. He hadn't even seen how he died. Then the bald leader had been defeated by Lin Feng and was killed under tragic circumstances, becoming a cultivation resource for Mo Kang Lan's demonic body. At that moment, the members of the Condor Castle organization were terrified. Maybe tomorrow their group would only be a memory in Celestial River. Everything was happening because they tried to kill Lin Feng, a young man at the Ling Chi lair. Those who offended him ended up dead. He was an amazing genius. He had even almost cut off one of Leng Yue's arms, the best disciple of the Hao Yue sect, for using a blade in front of him. He had destroyed the Blade Master's confidence in his own ability to use blades. Lin Feng was like an evil deity. The battle continued in a deadlock. Mo Kang Lan and Mr. Hu's battle was tough and fierce. An evil Qi and a fire Qi were bombarding each other, but the battle seemed to be very evenly matched. It was hard to tell who would win. Mo Kang Lan's skills were evil. Mr. Hu's skills were precise. Bing He Teng's cultivation level was higher than Meng Qing's, but her fighting power had exceeded all expectations. Besides, a moment ago, he turned his back to her, which led to him being injured by her attack. Bing He Teng couldn't do anything against Meng Qing. Concerning the members of the Condor Castle organization, they did not want to go near Lin Feng. They didn't dare to draw his attention. His purple spirit was way too terrifying. It could swallow people and then melt them into nothing. How monstrous was that? It seems like Lin Feng is not going to die today, thought the crowd. He was so strong that Bing He Teng and Mo Kang Lan, who were acting together, couldn't even kill him. Was this because destiny said he would not die today, or was it because they were not strong enough to kill him? Mr. Hu and Meng Qing could take the two strongest opponents, while Lin Feng, who was gifted and strong, didn't fear fighting against the lower Chuan Qi layer cultivators. Therefore, all the opponents, who all belonged to influential groups, couldn't touch him. While the crowd was analyzing the situation, far away in the distance appeared a white palanquin. On that white palanquin was a woman wearing a fine gauze on her face. 4 people were carrying that palanquin. At the same time, behind that palanquin, many people were running at full speed with only the tips of their toes touching the ground. They looked so graceful, and they didn't even look like they were hurrying. It seemed like they lightly floated above the ground, which gave the crowd a surrealistic impression, as if it was a dream. In a flash, the group of silhouettes arrived to where the battle was taking place. They didn't join the battle, though. The crowd was stupefied. Who were these people, and what did they want this time? However, Lan Jiao, who was in the crowd, was surprised. Her silhouette flickered, and she landed in front of the palanquin. She then said to the woman, "Aunt Yun, why are you here?" Aunt Yun removed her fine gauze, and a beautiful, mature woman's face appeared. She looked graceful and noble, cold and detached. She looked superior to other people to the extent that some people didn't dare look at her. "I came to solve some problems," said Aunt Yun while smiling. Immediately after, she looked at Lin Feng, who looked surprised because he was also looking at her. That woman didn't look young, but her skin looked splendid. Besides, she looked extremely elegant, and her strength seemed exceptional. "Lin Feng, right?" said that mature woman to Lin Feng. "Indeed," said Lin Feng while nodding, and added, "Is there a problem?" "There is a problem," said the mature woman while nodding, and continued. "Lin Feng, last time at the Dream Pavilion, you obtained an ancient cauldron. It's useless for you, and we would like to take it back. We will give you your purity stones back. How does that sound?" "The ancient dragon cauldron?" Lin Feng was stupefied. These people had come because of the ancient dragon cauldron. Lin Feng couldn't help but have a bad feeling. That woman was speaking in the name of the Dream Pavilion. She was obviously one of the management members. She had, against all expectations, come because of the dragon cauldron. She had likely found out what kind of item it was. In the frame of the auction, there is no rule which says that items have to be returned under any circumstance, said Lin Feng, sounding indifferent while looking at his interlocutor. He was obviously not willing to hand the cauldron over. The crowd was also puzzled. Lin Feng was right, since when did the people of the auction have the right to ask people to return acquired objects? That was impossible. Lin Feng, with the highest bid, had gained the cauldron, which now belonged to him. The story was fishy. "I can give you the double amount of purity stones for it to compensate for the loss," said Aunt Yun, sounding patient and calm. The double amount. Was the ancient dragon cauldron worth only 4,000 purity stones of medium quality? It was one of the 10 ancient cauldrons. It was priceless. It was a real treasure. "No need. I don't need purity stones. I like the cauldron very much," said Lin Feng indifferently. The cauldron was his. He didn't need to justify himself. "Lin Feng, you bought that cauldron for 2,000 now. I will give you 10,000 and you will give it back to me," continued Aunt Yun. "I said that I liked my cauldron, and no matter how many purity stones you offer, I will not exchange it," said Lin Feng in a strict and firm manner, which made a strange expression appear on the woman's face. "Aunt Yun, what's wrong?" said Lan Jiao, who felt that something was amiss. It seemed like something bad was about to happen between Aunt Yun and Lin Feng. "Jiao Jiao, this has nothing to do with you," said Aunt Yun indifferently. Immediately after, she looked at Lin Feng again and said, "That cauldron is of no use for you. However we need it, I hope that you can hand it over to the Dream Pavilion. We will inevitably be very grateful." Lin Feng, as before, shook his head. Finally, the woman's patience reached its limits. A cold energy appeared around her body, which made Lan Jiao shiver. "What a tragedy. You don't know how to distinguish good from evil," said Aunt Yun in a low voice. She could see the look on Lan Jiao's face was sad because of what was going to happen, but Lin Feng didn't recognize other people's kindness. "What if I want the item no matter what?" added Aunt Yun. Lin Feng was surprised. He then coldly said, "The Dream Pavilion sells things that other people have put up for auction. You, the Dream Pavilion, are just in charge of the selling. I obtained something and you gave the purity stones to the owner, but now you come to me and ask me for the cauldron on behalf of the Dream Pavilion. What is that supposed to mean?" When the woman heard Lin Feng, she remained unmoved. She just said coldly, "All I'm saying is that you have to hand over the ancient cauldron or you will regret it. The consequences will be terrible." When the crowd heard the woman, they were astonished. Problems were occurring one after the other for Lin Feng. He didn't even have the time to solve the old problems, and new ones were arising already. The Dream Pavilion surprisingly also wanted to fight against Lin Feng. But these people's strengths were much more terrifying than that of the Condor Castle organization. "Since when are the people of the Dream Pavilion so shameless?" said Mr. Hu jokingly. Fireballs were still emerging from his hand and rotating around him. He left Mo Kang land behind and moved back to Lin Feng. He was aggressively staring at Aunt Yun. "I didn't know that the Dream Pavilion was so greedy. If other people tried to steal items obtained at the auction, I wouldn't be surprised, but you, the Dream Pavilion, I am not expecting you to protect the people who obtain items at your auction. I can understand that, but stealing those items yourself, don't you care about face?" Many people secretly nodded when they heard Mr. Huo. Indeed, these people's behavior was way too exaggerated. That treasure had been obtained at their auction. They should protect their reputation instead of trying to steal from their own customers. "H-A-H-A-H-A," laughed Mo Kang Lan. He glanced at Aunt Yun, smiled evilly, and said, "Whether they are shameless or not will not be a problem for you once you're dead. Stop talking nonsense." "Did you hear him?" said Aunt Yun to Lin Feng coldly. "I don't want to kill you. If you obey and hand over the cauldron, I will not get involved, but if you don't—" "Aunt Yun!" shouted Lan Jiao, whose face had turned deathly pale. Aunt Yun originally wanted Lin Feng and her to become friends, but at that moment, she surprisingly was making an enemy and threatening to kill Lin Feng. "Jiao, Jiao, I already told you that all this is none of your business," said Aunt Yun, sounding cold. Lan Jiao bit her lip and remained silent. The Condor Castle organization and the Ice and Snow Mountain Village hadn't managed to touch Lin Feng. Could it be that the last group was going to manage what the others hadn't? The situation was clear to Lan Jiao. If Aunt Yun fought against Lin Feng, it would be a one-sided battle in her favor, and Lin Feng would have no opportunity to escape the combined forces. At that moment, Meng Qing and Bing He Teng stopped fighting, and Meng Qing moved back to Lin Feng's side. Lin Feng's facial expression was ice cold. Lin Feng was constantly being threatened in Celestial River. These people were all influential and powerful, which is why they could threaten Lin Feng as much as they wished. Because his strength still was not enough to deter these powerful groups. If Lin Feng had been extremely powerful, who would have dared speak to him that way? They even wanted to steal the treasure he had obtained at the auction. "Very good," said Lin Feng while looking at Aunt Yun. An evil smile appeared on his face and he said coldly, "You are very strong, which makes you think that you can threaten me whenever you want. If I don't give you what you want, you will kill me. You are convinced that the ancient cauldron is already yours, right?" Aunt Yun frowned and saw that Lin Feng's smile was becoming more and more evil, and he then said, "Everybody has heard her words clearly. You now all know how shameless the people of the Dream Pavilion are. Surprisingly, they want to steal the ancient cauldron that I obtained in their establishment." Aunt Yun was stupefied and then said coldly, "Shut up, shut up. You threaten me with death and now you want me to keep quiet about it. Do you think that the cauldron will automatically become yours once I die? You are naive, ridiculous, and utterly moronic," said Lin Feng while smiling indifferently. He then shouted at the top of his lungs, "I have obtained an ancient cauldron which is surprisingly one of the 10 legendary cauldrons from the stories. The ancient cauldron is actually the cauldron of the heavenly dragons." One of the 10 legendary cauldrons from the stories, the ancient cauldron is actually the cauldron of the heavenly dragons. Lin Feng's voice was echoing through the atmosphere. People's hearts started to violently pound. Legendary cauldrons were extremely precious. Even though they didn't know what the true name, Heavenly Dragon of the Nine Skies, or exactly what it meant, considering the name, they could imagine its price. It seemed to be a priceless treasure from ancient times. The Dream Pavilion doesn't care about violating the rules. They have come to steal a treasure. The crowd had no doubts when it came to Lin Feng's words. On that day, many people had seen Lin Feng come out of the Dream Pavilion with his legendary cauldron. But surprisingly, at that moment, the Dream Pavilion surprisingly wanted to have it back. Obviously, that ancient cauldron was priceless. Otherwise, the Dream Pavilion wouldn't care. The crowd was filled with excitement. They wished they could have obtained such an item. Mr. Hugh glanced at Lin Feng. Fire was burning in his eyes. He was an alchemist. He concocted pills. He had already heard about these legendary cauldrons once or twice. These cauldrons all had a common point. They could be used by alchemists to concoct powerful pills and were all priceless. When using an ordinary cauldron, one could only concoct Xuan-level pills of lower quality, while when using the cauldron of the heavenly dragons, one could concoct Xuan-level pills of medium quality or above. Even though it was only a slight improvement in quality, it still made a huge difference. It was the difference between day and night. For example, Xuan-level pills of lower quality could be used by cultivators between the first and the third Xuan-Qi layer, while Xuan-level pills of medium quality could be used by cultivators between the fourth and sixth Xuan-Qi layer. That was a 3-layer difference, therefore it was a huge difference. H-A-H-A-H-A? Mo Kanglan was laughing demonically. The more he used his evil skill, the more evil and sinister he became. He didn't look like a human being anymore. He realized that he was interested in the cauldron of the heavenly dragons as well. He was as interested in the cauldron as he was in killing Lin Feng. Bing He Teng was astonished as well. If the ice and snow mountain village could obtain such a treasure, how beneficial would it be? No, if I had such a treasure, would I even need to go back to the sect? Bing He Teng was secretly excited. If he had such a treasure and went back to the sect, the treasure wouldn't be his anymore. It would become the property of the ice and snow mountain village. Besides, considering the strength of the ice and snow mountain village, maybe they wouldn't be able to protect the cauldron. It would be too hard to protect it. Maybe when it came to such a heavy responsibility, it was best to leave Zhu Yue and take the treasure with him. Everybody was already dreaming about getting the heavenly dragon cauldron. All the strong cultivators were wondering why they weren't the ones who bought the cauldron, even though they had never even thought about it. At that moment, Aunt Yun looked glum. Before arriving, she hadn't thought that Lin Feng would know about the heavenly dragon cauldron, which is why she had offered a high price in the beginning. But later on, whatever the price, Lin Feng kept refusing over and over again. Therefore, she had guessed that Lin Feng probably knew about the cauldron. Besides, she had threatened Lin Feng's life, but it hadn't been enough. Lin Feng had made the truth publicly known. That was a great loss for her. Even if she obtained the cauldron, she wouldn't necessarily be able to leave Zhu Yue. Everybody would quickly know about the heavenly dragon cauldron. Everybody will know about the treasure if I obtain it, thought Aunt Yun. She was staring at Lin Feng and her face was filled with murder. You want to kill me? Lin Feng had a cold smile on his face and immediately said, Mo Kang Lan, Bing He Teng, I know that you all want to kill me, but even if you kill me, have you thought about who would get the treasure? Lin Feng sounded cold and indifferent. Mo Kang Lan and Bing He Teng remained silent. The Dream Pavilion was one of the 3 biggest marketplaces in Celestial River. They had such a large power and influence that the Condor Castle couldn't rival them. All the objects that appeared in their auction room were treasures, yet no one dared to try and steal the treasures. They certainly were extremely strong. However, if we kill the people of the Dream Pavilion first, we can solve our personal problems after, then we won't be bothered by a stronger third party. Wouldn't that be a better solution? Said Lin Feng. In the world, there were no definite enemies. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Even though Mo Kang Lan and Bing He Teng wanted to kill him, and Lin Feng also wanted to kill them, he knew that if they acted at the same time as the Dream Pavilion, he wouldn't have a single chance. Lin Feng was just trying to create tension between them, so that they would at least not collaborate to kill him. Lin Feng? Lan Jiao was looking at Lin Feng while unceasingly shaking her head. She hadn't thought that Aunt Yun and Lin Feng would fight each other to death. She wants to kill me. Should I let her kill me without retaliation? said Lin Feng, sounding indifferent while looking at Lan Jiao, which made her speechless. Aunt Yun wanted to kill Lin Feng. What could Lin Feng do? He had no choice but to return his killing intent. When Bing He Teng heard Lin Feng, lights flashed in his eyes. Lin Feng was right. Even if they collaborated with Aunt Yun and killed Lin Feng, they were in Celestial River. They weren't at the Ice and Snow Mountain Village. Even if they obtained the Heavenly Dragon Cauldron, they wouldn't be able to leave with it as long as the Dream Pavilion wanted it. H-A-H-A-H-A, Mo Kang Lan was laughing evilly. He then said, "I will not join anyone." "Old fool," cursed Lin Feng. Mo Kang Lan was really evil. He didn't wait for Bing He Teng, who wasn't as strong as him, to reply and had given his answer. If the two didn't help, Lin Feng and the people of the Dream Pavilion would fight. The other two would just sit and watch them fight and then attack the winner. Then, it didn't matter whether it was Lin Feng or the Dream Pavilion who won, they would inevitably be injured. However, even they didn't help. Lin Feng's goal was to get rid of the two cultivators of the third Xianxia layer and then fight against the people of the Dream Pavilion. Aunt Yun, at that moment, was staring at Lin Feng. From the stories, he was not someone who would lie down and be killed easily. But could it really be that bad? Even though they had only a fraction of the power in Celestial River, they were still strong enough to kill Lin Feng. "Since you want to die, I will help you achieve your aim," said Aunt Yun coldly. She then jumped off the palanquin. She was extremely quick. At the same time, the silhouettes of the four cultivators carrying the palanquin flickered. They all landed on her sides. They were releasing a deadly chi. Amongst these four people, who were women, none of them were mediocre cultivators. All of them had broken through to the first Xianxia layer. The people of the Dream Pavilion are so strong. Lin Feng was stupefied. Aunt Yun was extremely powerful when compared to the other women. "You four can kill him and then his ring with the Nus stone," said Aunt Yun while pointing to Lin Feng. She sounded indifferent. Lin Feng had no power or influence in Celestial River. He couldn't just walk away with the precious treasure when there were stronger people present. That was why these four people were here to kill Lin Feng. "I will handle these two," said Aunt Yun while rolling up her sleeves. Her silhouette flickered, and in a flash, she appeared in front of Mr. Huo and Meng Qing. Her long sleeves were fluttering in the wind. In a flash, an endless quantity of illusions appeared. It seemed like there was an endless quantity of clones. In a flash, Meng Qing and Mr. Huo's silhouettes had disappeared. Third Xianxia layer. Mo Kang Lan and Bing He Teng had lots of experience. They could, obviously, sense other people's strength. They could see that that woman had broken through to the third Xianxia layer like them. However, she had immediately challenged Meng Qing and Mr. Huo alone. Those two could rival Mo Kang Lan and Bing He Teng in power. What a strong and aggressive woman! People's hearts were pounding. After that move, it seemed like she was the only person in the entire world. "Aunt Yun's Thousand Illusion skill is becoming stronger and stronger," whispered Lan Jiao. She was lost, though, because she already had feelings for Lin Feng, but at that moment, Aunt Yun wanted to kill him. In the middle of a whistling hurricane, Meng Qing and Mr. Huo had recovered from the illusions. These 1,000 illusions didn't emit any sound, but everybody could feel the terrifying power in the attack. A careless move, and it was easy to get severely injured in the middle of such an attack, or even die in a pitiful manner. At that moment, the four women also attacked. Their sleeves were fluttering in the wind. Like illusions, in a flash, they surrounded Lin Feng. Lin Feng was unable to escape even if he grew wings. Boom! Coldness invaded the entire atmosphere. Lin Feng frowned and raised his head and looked at the three silhouettes fighting. It seemed like Meng Qing was furious. She wanted to leave the 1,000 illusions and join Lin Feng. "Meng Qing, don't worry about me," shouted Lin Feng. It was clear to Lin Feng that Meng Qing was ready to do anything for him. Besides, he even knew that Meng Qing had a strange ability to increase her power several-fold when needed, but using it created an infinite coldness which invaded her body. He didn't want Meng Qing to use it. Lin Feng preferred to suffer alone. "It's my turn." Lin Feng took a deep breath. 100 surplus souls emerged. Around his body was releasing a terrifying chi. A strange light flashed in these four women's eyes. Their sleeves fluttered in the wind while they all started to punch towards Lin Feng. Punches were moving towards Lin Feng from all four sides. These women had all broken through to the Xianxia layer. Even though they had just broken through to the first Xianxia layer, their opponent was only a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer. Aunt Yun had assigned 4 people to kill Lin Feng because she wanted to make sure that Lin Feng would die. She didn't want to waste time and let more troubles arise. A soft and pliable pure qi was whistling in the atmosphere and moving straight towards Lin Feng. An ordinary cultivator of the Ling Qi layer wouldn't be able to withstand a single attack such as this. SSSSS? Lin Feng's purple spirit transformed into a gigantic purple dragon. It was a dozen meters high. It curled up around Lin Feng's body and moved Lin Feng onto its head. In a flash, Lin Feng appeared a dozen meters high in the air, looking down on everybody. What a monstrous spirit! When the crowd saw that gigantic purple dragon, they were astonished. However, they didn't know what kind of spirit it was exactly that Lin Feng had, but it looked extremely strong. At that moment, Lin Feng's eyes were slightly closed. He was, as before, releasing a terrifyingly powerful qi. His surplus souls were floating above his dragon spirit. "Die!" shouted the four women on the ground. They jumped up in the air and threw themselves towards Lin Feng. "Release!" said Lin Feng in a low voice. A terrifying qi invaded the entire atmosphere. The purple dragon started shaking violently, and it raised its head high into the air. SSSSS? The dragon was unleashing a dragon chant. Its two eyes, which looked enormous, became even scarier. At the same time, its body became even bigger. It became monstrously gigantic. That small dragon that was like a snake now transformed and looked like a terrifying purple dragon. SSSSSSSS? The dragon howled in fury. Its head rushed towards the four women with its huge mouth wide open. It wanted to swallow them. "Animal!" furiously shouted Aunt Yun while looking at Lin Feng. She left Meng Qing and Mr. Huo and attempted to rush over to Lin Feng. She had thought that these four women, with their strength, would need only a few seconds to kill Lin Feng, but she hadn't thought that Lin Feng had other plans. Lin Feng was full of mysteries and surprises. "Stay here," said Mr. Huo furiously. If she wanted to fight, they had to fight, and if she wanted to leave, she thought that she could leave as she pleased. Mr. Huo, old as he was, couldn't tolerate that. That was a huge humiliation. A fire light streaked through the sky towards Aunt Yun like a fireball. Aunt Yun was startled for a few seconds. She couldn't deal with Lin Feng. She abruptly turned around and saw the fireball move towards her at full speed. Boom! The fireballs exploded in the atmosphere. Immediately after, the atmosphere became extremely cold. Meng Qing had arrived as well. Crackling and explosion sounds were uninterruptedly spreading through the air. In a flash, it seemed like the atmosphere had gone from intense heat to freezing coldness. The fireballs were surrounded by ice. Ice and fire, when working together, increased in strength. Lin Feng was on the other side in the air. At that moment, he was on the enormous tail of the dragon. Besides, the gigantic purple dragon opened its colossal mouth and immediately swallowed one of the four women, and she was instantly eaten alive. One cultivator of the Xianxia layer had just died. At that moment, the dragon didn't look like a spirit anymore. It looked like a real terrifying dragon, as if it was alive. How could a spirit be alive? The crowd was astonished. The spirit was something innate and was a part of the soul. It played an important role in the path of cultivation. It could be used to enhance techniques or enlightenment during battles. When the cultivation level increased, the spirit became stronger as well. However, they believed the spirit was just a support for the cultivator and did not have life. They had never seen Lin Feng's spirit before, and it seemed like it had a life of its own. At that moment, Lin Feng was on the tail of the dragon and had his eyes closed. Besides, the pupils of the dragon were filled with endless coldness. "If you want to kill me, just try it." People's hearts were pounding. They had the impression that their heads were exploding in shock. That voice had come from the mouth of the dragon. However, it was Lin Feng's voice. "It's Lin Feng. That purple dragon is Lin Feng." The crowd was dumbstruck. They looked at these gigantic eyes, which looked expressionless and incredibly cold. These eyes were those of a human. Lin Feng could control his spirit and bring it to life. Phew! People in the crowd took a deep breath. How scary. Lin Feng had absolute control over his spirit. People in the crowd were not the ones who were astonished. Those few extremely strong cultivators of the Xianxia layer were all astonished. Lin Feng's abilities were very mysterious. Ha 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 ha. Mokang Lan's face was filled with evil intentions. What a great method. He definitely wanted that ability as well. Lin Feng was a priceless treasure to him. At that moment, the three women of the Xianxia layer managed to free themselves from the attacks of the purple dragon and landed onto the ground. They were breathing quickly and felt cold in their hearts. What a terrifying young man. They were not the only ones who thought that Lin Feng was terrifying. Everybody thought the same. So that's how it was. He had killed the two vice leaders of the Condor Castle organization without using his full strength. No wonder he didn't fear them and was determined to stay in Celestial River. However, Lin Feng hadn't expected so many people would keep attacking him one after the other when he was dealing with Condor Castle. First, it was the Ice and Snow Mountain Village, then the Dream Pavilion. They all wanted to kill him. Fortunately, Mr. Hua was there to help. The purple dragon was fixedly staring at the people down on the ground. When Lin Feng was at the Golden Zai Mountain in Mo Yue, the cultivators of the Zai government used a purple energy. They could control their spirits and increase the strength of their spirit. This is what Lin Feng was using. He had obtained the memories of the cultivator of the Zun Qi layer and spent 6 months practicing in secret. He had learnt the how to use surplus souls and could now already make 100 surplus souls appear, which all contained the power of his soul. He was combining that power with the power of his spirit. Thus, when using these surplus souls and injecting them into his spirit, he could bring his spirit into reality and it would become monstrously strong. If he had only relied on the strength of a single soul and tried to control his spirit, his dragon would have been strong, but it wouldn't have been enough to defeat these 4 women of the Xianxia layer. Therefore, he had used all of his surplus souls to inject them into his spirit and increase its strength. His snake thus had even more power as well. That splendid method was called the Ode to the Spirit. "Die!" shouted Lin Feng coldly. Immediately after, the dragon rushed through the atmosphere with a whistling sound. The purple lake from before had been entirely swallowed by Lin Feng's snake spirit, and that purple lake turned out to be the blood of a Zun-level dragon. Besides, there were the remnants of its willpower and determination in that blood. The gigantic dragon moved. It seemed like the entire world was under the pressure of that terrifying creature. Fear invaded the heart of these 3 female cultivators of the Xianxia layer. That gigantic snake definitely had the strength of a Xuan-level beast. Besides, it was also extremely brutal, violent, and agile. Concerning the women, they were experts at creating illusions. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be very useful against Lin Feng's spirit. Cursed the 3 women furiously. Their silhouettes flickered, and many illusions appeared floating above the ground. The crowd was dazzled and felt they were hallucinating after seeing so many illusions. "Fools!" shouted Lin Feng's furious voice, and his eyes were as cold as before. He was determined and tenacious. There wasn't the least bit of hesitation in his actions. Illusions. They probably didn't know that at this moment, Lin Feng's purple dragon spirit was filled with the power of several surplus souls. Lin Feng's eyes were closed and he was in fusion with the earth. He could see through the illusions clearly in his mind, therefore so could all of his surplus souls. "Ah!" 2 piercingly sharp shrieks emerged. A huge quantity of illusions vanished. 2 female cultivators of the Xianxia layer had just disappeared after being swallowed by the purple dragon. The arrogant female cultivator of the Xianxia layer who was standing in front of the dragon seemed absolutely tiny and insignificant, at least in comparison with the dragon. There was only one left. From the 4 female cultivators of the first Xianxia layer, only one was left. She was standing there looking at that gigantic creature and shaking. She had just seen her 3 sisters being swallowed by the spirit. How could she not be terrified? Her determination and willpower had already been crushed. The monstrous and gigantic spirit was coldly staring at her. She was getting more and more frightened with each second. Finally, she decided to give up and turned around to run. She didn't want to fight anymore. She wanted to escape. A cultivator of the Xianxia layer wasn't fighting anymore. She wanted to flee. Unfortunately, she didn't have the possibility of escaping. The gigantic dragon started moving as if in a frenzy. In a flash, he swallowed her body, which immediately disappeared. With that, the 4 female cultivators of the Xianxia layer had all died. Boom! A violent and heavy wave of energy spread through the air. Aunt Yun moved away from Mr. Huo and Meng Qing. When she saw that the 4th female cultivators had disappeared, a horrible and evil expression appeared on her face. "You killed them all?" Her face was distorted with murderous intentions. She didn't look calm and indifferent anymore. "Not only did I kill them, but I will also kill everyone else from the Dream Pavilion," said the purple dragon, sounding ice cold. "When you came to kill me, you should have prepared for death." Lin Feng was back on the head of the gigantic purple dragon, and his eyes were closed as before. Besides, the purple dragon, on which Lin Feng was moving towards the people of the Dream Pavilion, which made their heartbeats accelerate violently. "How dare you?" said the woman who sounded enraged. She was extremely arrogant, and at that moment she was still acting very haughty and bossy. "Why would I not dare?" said Lin Feng, sounding ice cold. "Mr. Huo, Meng Qing, Aunt Yun is for you." "All right," said Mr. Huo while slightly nodding. He was staring at Aunt Yun. How arrogant. She was even looking down on him, an old man at the same Xianxia lair. The purple dragon arrived in front of the people of the Dream Pavilion in a flash. At that moment, a silhouette blocked Lin Feng's way. It was Lan Jiao. "Please, no," said Lan Jiao while shaking her head and hoping that Lin Feng would stop. "Please, no," said the gigantic dragon, sounding ice cold. "Your people, the people of the Dream Pavilion, want to kill me, but I can't kill them. Besides, when they wanted to kill me, you didn't try to prevent them from doing so, but now that I want to kill them, do you think that you have any right to stop me?" When Lan Jiao heard Lin Feng, she started shaking. Indeed, when these people arrived to kill Lin Feng, she didn't try to stop them. What gave her the right to try and prevent Lin Feng from getting his revenge by blocking his way? "Get lost!" The gigantic dragon moved forwards and threw Lan Jiao's body flying to the side. Then it kept moving forwards towards the people of the Dream Pavilion. Immediately after, horrible shrieks spread through the atmosphere. All the people of the Dream Pavilion were thrown into the air. An extreme strength had smashed into them, destroying their bones, flesh, and vital organs. "SSSS!" The dragon had slaughtered the people of the Dream Pavilion, but its two gigantic eyes revealed neither sympathy nor pity. They were just filled with killing intent. It fought until all the enemies were dead. At the moment when everybody wanted to kill him, who had felt any sympathy or pity for him? The world of cultivation was a cruel world without emotion. Those who were weak in their hearts died early. The rule was to kill or be killed. Very quickly, a sea of corpses appeared in front of the purple dragon. All the people of the Dream Pavilion except for Lan Jiao had died. Far in the distance, Aunt Yun's facial expression looked evilly cold, revealing her murderous desires. All of her people had died except for Lan Jiao. She had to get revenge and kill Lin Feng. However, at that moment, Meng Qing and Mr. Huo were preventing her from doing so. She couldn't even move closer to Lin Feng. Besides, Mo Kang Lan and Bing He Teng were smiling coldly. They both had ice-cold, evil smiles on their faces. They hadn't expected such happy circumstances. For them, the more devastating that battle was, the more advantageous it was for them. The gigantic purple dragon slowly turned around. Its eyes looked as cold as before, and it glanced at the crowd. The crowd looked at Lin Feng, but what they didn't know was that Lin Feng, at that moment, was exhausted and had almost no strength remaining. Using the ode to the spirit was using the strength of his soul to boost his spirit's power, and then make his spirit transform into a ferocious dragon. It was extremely tiresome for his soul and vitality. Lin Feng already had the impression that he was about to faint from exhaustion. Mo Kang Lan had a huge smile on his face. He was slowly walking forward, taking small steps. Suddenly, he jumped into the air, throwing himself at Lin Feng. An endless quantity of vines appeared in the air and moved towards Lin Feng at full speed. Even though that purple dragon was terrifying, Mo Kang Lan had sensed that the purple dragon was just Lin Feng's spirit, and that it wasn't a real dragon. Besides, it only had the strength of the first Xianxia layer, but that was still sufficient to kill 4 people of the first Xianxia layer. However, it wouldn't be enough against Mo Kang Lan. In such circumstances, if Mo Kang Lan managed to kill Lin Feng, the purple dragon would collapse by itself. SSSSSS. The dragon moved towards the vines. The vines were becoming longer and longer and started twining around the dragon's body. A bloodthirsty chi emerged from the vines, and the purple dragon was finally defeated. It transformed into a purple lake and rushed back towards Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng couldn't endure it anymore. He was too exhausted. He fell down onto the ground and opened his eyes. He saw these bloodthirsty vines coming towards him. At the same time, an ice-cold chi enveloped his body. Mo Kang Lan and Bing He Teng were attacking Lin Feng together. They wanted to kill him and steal the cauldron. "You plan to kill me?" said Lin Feng, smiling with a warm smile on his face. He didn't feel threatened at all. His body flickered, a light flashed, and suddenly an ancient cauldron appeared in Lin Feng's hand. It contained a mysterious ancient chi. When the ancient cauldron appeared, everybody was stupefied. At that moment, Lin Feng had taken out the ancient cauldron. It was obviously the heavenly dragon cauldron. The crowd, who had no hope of ever being able to touch the cauldron, was still very excited when it appeared, and had hope again. What if a miracle happened and they were able to get it? "You all want the heavenly dragon cauldron. Here, you can have it," shouted Lin Feng furiously. Immediately, the heavenly dragon cauldron flew through the air towards Mo Kang Lan. Lin Feng was offering it to him. Mo Kang Lan was astonished. His vines stopped moving towards Lin Feng. Instead, he used them to catch the cauldron. Immediately after, he vigorously pulled it towards him. In a flash, it was almost in Mo Kang Lan's hands. Bing He Tang released some ice energy and threw himself at Mo Kang Lan. At that moment, he had already forgotten about Lin Feng. Even though Lin Feng had killed his disciples of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village, they were less important than that ancient cauldron. If he managed to get that ancient cauldron, he would leave Zhu Yue and go to even greater and more important places. How could Bing He Tang miss the opportunity to get the ancient cauldron? He wasn't the only one to think that way. Because of Lin Feng, Protector Kong had killed Mo Zai, Mo Kang Lan's son. And Mo Kang Lan hated Lin Feng even more for that. But just before, when Mo Kang Lan obtained the cauldron, he immediately focused on storing the cauldron and started running away at an incredible speed. People couldn't even believe their eyes. He didn't think that it would be that easy to acquire the heavenly dragon cauldron. Mo Kang Lan, at that moment, couldn't help but look up at the sky and feel overjoyed. He hadn't killed Lin Feng yet, but after getting monstrously strong, he would come back and easily be able to kill Lin Feng. He didn't need to rush. The most important thing was to stay safe and leave with the cauldron. "Where are you going?" shouted Aunt Yun furiously. She jumped into the air and threw herself at Mo Kang Lan, forgetting about Lin Feng for the time being. At that moment, Meng Qing and Mr. Hu didn't stop them. They instead moved back to Lin Feng's side. They were looking at the people who were farther and farther away. "It's not that easy to obtain the heavenly dragon cauldron," said Mr. Hu indifferently. Mr. Hu's eyes were filled with admiration while looking at Lin Feng. Lin Feng, when he was threatened by the people of the Dream Pavilion, hadn't taken the ancient cauldron out. But when the situation had turned out to be really dangerous, he immediately threw away an incredibly precious treasure without regret or hesitation. Courage, insight, cunning, and resolution, coupled with Lin Feng's natural talent, would definitely turn him into an incredibly strong cultivator. Lin Feng's face turned deathly pale. He was smiling indifferently and took out a sheet, a pill recipe. "Mr. Huo, this is the recipe for spirit blood pills. Keep it safe. I will copy some other recipes for you," said Lin Feng while giving the recipe to Mr. Huo. If he hadn't been helped by Mr. Huo, maybe the outcome of these battles would have been different. He wouldn't even have been able to resist to Mo Kang Lan and Bing He Tang. Lin Feng would remember that favor forever. Mr. Huo looked delighted, without adhering to formalities with Lin Feng. He immediately put away the recipe and immediately handed a ring to Lin Feng while saying, "These are the things that you have asked me to get. Keep them safe." "Thank you," said Lin Feng while taking the ring. He immediately said, "Mr. Huo, how advanced is your knowledge when it comes to pills?" So. I have no problem concocting Ling-level pills. I can make some Xuan-level pills of lower quality as well, but it doesn't always succeed. I have about a 10% success rate. I am unable to make pills of higher levels. Xuan-level pills of lower quality, 10% success rate. Mr. Huo's abilities when it came to concocting pills were already extremely advanced. Having a 10% success rate when it came to concocting Xuan-level pills of lower quality was not a great success rate, but it was very high compared to others, which was why the demand for Xuan-level pills were high. Mr. Huo certainly had many people who were interested in his services. "Mr. Huo, are you interested in concocting some pills with me? You could also teach a few things about pills," asked Lin Feng. Mr. Hu remained silent for a while and then said, while smiling, "Concocting pills together, no problem, but don't you want to chase the heavenly dragon cauldron?" "I'm not strong enough to own such a valuable item. How could I even get it back?" said Lin Feng while shaking his head and smiling. "If you cannot get it back, at least, you should make things hard for them." These days, the news that the heavenly dragon cauldron is in Celestial River will spread very quickly. If anyone wants it, it will not be easy for anyone, at least for a certain period of time. In Celestial River, it will be a bloodbath because of the ancient cauldron. Even though, relying on your own strength, you are not necessarily able to take it back. Since you have pill recipes, I could ask some old friends to help. Then it might not be that difficult to get it back," said Mr. Huo while smiling. Lin Feng looked delighted. Since the precious treasure was there, many extremely strong people were going to try and steal it. The strongest ones could defeat a few of their opponents, but it wouldn't be an easy task to exterminate all those interested in the cauldron. In a secret room, Lin Feng was sitting cross-legged and his eyes were firmly closed. Carefree and indifferent, Lin Feng was fused with the earth. A long thread of pure qi was fluctuating. It contained Lin Feng's soul energy. Lin Feng was practicing his surplus souls technique. It had been 2 days since the battle between the multiple groups. During these 2 days, Lin Feng had only been sitting in that secret room practicing cultivation, nothing else. His pure qi had recovered. The strength of his soul had also recovered. At the same time, he had improved the speed of his surplus soul ability. The strength of his soul was becoming stronger and stronger. He was also able to make even more surplus souls appear. He could make an even stronger purple spirit appear. In a battle, he would be much stronger than before. Lin Feng needed to be extremely strong. Therefore, before even having completely recovered from his injuries, Lin Feng had already started developing the number of his surplus souls. In order to become stronger, even if it was extremely difficult, Lin Feng was ready and willing to endure the pain and suffering required. He didn't want to be threatened by other people. He didn't want to rely on Meng Qing and other people each time a situation appeared where someone wanted to kill him. It was embarrassing for Lin Feng to be so weak. The fact that Meng Qing protected him once in a while was not a problem, but it couldn't always be the case. Time passed, and the 3rd day was already over. In that secret room, many purity stones of medium quality had already disappeared, but Lin Feng's ability to absorb pure qi was growing stronger. A white light was fluctuating in the atmosphere, emitting whistling sounds. It was violently penetrating into Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng had the impression that he was intoxicated. It was so comfortable. The pure qi was revolving faster and faster around Lin Feng. Lin Feng's body was glittering and looked translucent. In the middle of the dazzling light, there was an incredible strength which seemed to be endless. It was the strength of pure qi, even though they were only small threads of pure qi. The fact that he was now absorbing enough pure qi for it to be visible implied that Lin Feng was getting closer and closer to reaching the Xuan qi layer. Boom! A soft explosion emerged inside Lin Feng's body. An endless supply of pure qi drowned into Lin Feng's body from heaven and earth. Besides, at the same time, a thread of pure qi emitted a bright and dazzling light, and then immediately vanished. Fewer, Lin Feng, whose eyes were closed, slightly opened his mouth and took a deep breath. He opened his eyes and looked so delighted that his eyes were twinkling. 9th Ling Qi layer. I still have one more step before I break through to the Xuan Qi layer. Now it's only a small step away, thought Lin Feng. For months, Lin Feng had dedicated all his time to studying the Zun Qi layer cultivators' memories and techniques. He had not reached the 9th Ling Qi layer, as he was focusing on the pure qi and techniques rather than just absorbing qi. After the last big battle, he finally believed he now had enough understanding of pure qi and could successfully advance. He had finally broken through to the 9th Ling Qi layer, but was still a small step away from breaking through to the Xuan Qi layer. Even though Lin Feng had broken through to the 9th Qi layer, he didn't stand up. He slowly closed his eyes again and kept practicing his surplus soul technique. Lin Feng couldn't afford to relax and be lazy. No matter how tiresome, how painful, everything that he did was in accordance with his beliefs. Everything he did was because of his incredible ambition to not get bullied anymore and to put a stop to the people who wanted to kill him. Lin Feng spent 7 days in the secret room focusing on getting stronger. Outside of the secret room was a spacious guest room, but nobody was inside at that moment. In the room next to Lin Feng's cultivation room, it was dark. From outside, that cultivation room looked like a shelf, but nobody knew that it was actually an entrance to a secret room. Meng Qing was probably cultivating as well. After all, that big battle had made her exhausted as well. "Where is Mr. Huo?" thought Lin Feng. He started walking to the guest room and opened the door and entered. Inside, it was a scenery filled with charm and beauty. There were many rooms. In one of the rooms, a vast and boundless heat had invaded the atmosphere. Apart from that heat, it also smelt like medicine. No, it's not correct. Mr. Kai, that's not correct. The 1,000 lotus flower leaves have to melt first, and then they can be put into the mixture. Then we have to use our soul to control it. The sounds of people arguing could be heard in the room where the heat came from. It was precisely Mr. Huo's voice. It seemed like he was arguing with someone else about something. "Mr. Huo, you are wrong. If you first melt the lotus leaves and then put them into the mixture, you will lose half of the medicinal strength when you add them to the mixture, and it will be impossible to concoct Xuan-level spirit blood pills," said the other voice. It seemed like that person was an old man like Mr. Huo. Besides, his voice sounded like he was stubbornly persisting in his own opinion. It seems like Mr. Huo and his friend were concocting Xuan-level spirit blood pills, and that they didn't agree with each other, thought Lin Feng. Immediately after, he entered the room in which they were concocting pills. Apart from Mr. Huo, Lin Feng saw another old man. He was sitting down on a chair. Both of them were staring at the other. It seemed like they were unable to persuade each other. Besides, next to them was a huge cauldron. Mr. Huo had taken the recipe of the spirit blood pills and was discussing it with the other old man. Obviously, they were very well acquainted. Lin Feng glanced at the two old men and then looked at the red-haired old man. His heart started beating a bit faster. He recognized the old man who was with Mr. Huo. It was the old man who bid on the heavenly dragon cauldron in the auction room, but who, in the end, let Lin Feng get it. The red-haired old man, when he saw Lin Feng, smiled and nodded. "Senior," said Lin Feng while slightly bowing, as a sign of respect. "Lin Feng, you provided us with the recipe of the spirit blood pills. We need you to tell us, do we have to make the lotus leaves melt first and then add them to the mixture or not?" asked Mr. Huo. He was only concerned about his argument with the red-haired old man. "Stop talking nonsense. If you melt them first and add them to mixture, would your soul be strong enough to control the leaves so that their essence spreads evenly in the concoction? If the pills are not perfectly balanced with all the ingredients, can you still concoct Xuan-level spirit blood pills?" said the red-haired old man, getting angry again. When Lin Feng saw these two old men argue, he smiled. In that world, being able to exchange ideas while insulting each other, but remaining friendly, was also an enviable thing. It could mean that a friendship had already reached a certain degree. "Mr. Huo, Senior, I also did some research about that recipe, but my pill concoction abilities are extremely basic. I'm not able to concoct spirit blood pills, but I would like to have a try with the guidance from you, my seniors. We could see if Mr. Huo's suggestion works, even if there is no guarantee that it will work," said Lin Feng, who made the red-haired old man frown. "Lin Feng, who are you calling a senior? Call me Mr. Kai, damn it. Maybe because you have never concocted pills before, but the more people doesn't mean the merrier. It's actually the opposite and can get chaotic. People synchronize their souls in perfect harmony. Concocting pills is an extremely rigorous process. Each step of the procedure is of highest importance. One careless move and the whole thing would be lost. Besides, it can lead to the cauldron being damaged or destroyed," said the red-haired old man, sounding solemn and respectful. One person was more appropriate than two when concocting pills. "I know about that, obviously, but maybe I have a solution," said Lin Feng while smiling. Immediately after, he sat next to Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai in front of the cauldron. "You are two senior alchemists. You can feel the strength of a soul," said Lin Feng. Immediately after, he closed his eyes. Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai glanced at each other and then immediately closed their eyes. They then all started releasing the strength of their soul and slowly let it flow out. In a flash, Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai could feel the strength of each other's souls. It seemed like there were two sets of eyes angrily staring at each other. Their souls were in the atmosphere, but their souls were at odds. Every person was unique and would see things in their own way. It was impossible for two people to have perfectly identical beliefs and opinions, which was why it was difficult for several people to concoct pills together. However, at that moment, an illusion slowly appeared. It was Lin Feng's soul. That bright illusion immediately wrapped up the two old men's souls, and in a flash, it seemed like their souls had entered another world. These three people's souls seemed to be following the same pace and rhythm as if they were joined through a special connection. The bright illusion moved their soul power into the cauldron. Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai could distinctly and clearly perceive what Lin Feng's soul was doing as if it was their own soul. It was a mysterious and mystical moment. At that moment, the light vanished from the atmosphere. That mysterious sensation vanished as well. Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai's souls suddenly became at odds again. They recalled their souls back into their bodies and opened their eyes. They were both looking at Lin Feng. They looked delighted. "Earth fusion? Indeed, I have broken through the Earth dimension," said Lin Feng while nodding. Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai remained silent for a while and then both burst into an insane laughter. "Mr. Huo, the fact that you have met Lin Feng is a stroke of luck. He knows the secret of Earth fusion, which even we could only dream of. Thanks to him, we can concoct at the same time while maintaining the efficiency to a high level," said Mr. Kai while smiling. Before, it was impossible for Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai to concoct pills together. But since Lin Feng had the power of earth fusion, they would be able to concoct pills together, and their souls could work together. They could clearly divide the work without interfering with the other. This made the chance of errors occurring very low. As alchemists, Lin Feng didn't need to beg them to accept working with him. It was a great chance for them to increase their knowledge and abilities by working together. At that moment, Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai were not arguing anymore. Mr. Huo nodded, smiled, then said, "It's a strike of luck indeed. Lin Feng has only been practicing cultivation for less than a decade. Yet he can already fuse with the earth. He can also defeat cultivators of the Xuan Qi layer, even though he only had the power of the 8th Ling Qi layer. In fact, I particularly look forward to seeing how strong and powerful he will be in the future." "Yes," said Mr. Kai while nodding. Mr. Huo had already told him about all the things which had happened in Celestial River. Lin Feng had been at the core of all these incidents. Lin Feng's natural talent was rare. The so-called geniuses of the biggest sects couldn't rival Lin Feng. Such geniuses as Lin Feng maybe appeared once every millennium. If they didn't die young, they usually reached the heavens. Mr. Kai looked impatient to see an authentic genius grow up. That would indubitably be very exciting. Lin Feng slightly smiled while shaking his head. He indeed had a high natural talent, but for the time being, he wasn't strong enough. There were so many people who were much stronger than him. He needed to be monstrously strong. If someday he managed to reach the heavens and walked above the clouds while looking down at all living creatures, what a mighty and epic moment would that be? "Mr. Huo, Mr. Kai, let's refine some Xuan-level spirit blood pills together. We'll first start heating the cauldron," said Lin Feng. Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai looked delighted. They both looked forward to concocting some pills altogether, the three of them. Refining some Xuan-level pills of medium quality was extremely complex. Even though Mr. Kai and Mr. Huo had been arguing, they also didn't really intend to refine Xuan-level pills of medium quality. But Lin Feng had opened their eyes, and it was like a ray of sunshine through the clouds. It seemed like nothing was impossible. If Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai had concocted pills, they would only have been able to concoct Xuan-level pills of lower quality. But since the earth fusion enabled them to be in symbiosis, the level of the pills could be increased significantly. They were, of course, willing to give it a try. Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai turned Lin Feng. "Is everything ready?" asked Lin Feng immediately after the two old men nodded. Lin Feng closed his eyes and entered in the mysterious dimension which enabled him to fuse with the earth. The strength of his soul emerged and invaded the entire atmosphere. That strength wrapped up the strength of the two old men's souls and immediately after moved into the cauldron. A fireball appeared and embraced the cauldron, boiling the spiritual herbs which were inside. "Fiery herbs?" said Mr. Huo, sounding indifferent. Mr. Kai understood what that meant, and then his body faintly shook, and then some pure qi strength moved into the cauldron, breaking apart the fiery herbs and evenly spreading them in the concoction. At that moment, Lin Feng was responsible for making sure that their souls remained on the same wavelength. Mr. Huo was in charge of maintaining the fire, while Mr. Kai was in charge of the concoction. Every single step had to be carried out rigorously. The smell of the pills slowly started invading the entire atmosphere. The odor around the cauldron was getting more and more intense. "Sanguine flames," said Mr. Huo after a while in a low voice. Mr. Kai had already prepared everything. A long blood-red thread spread in the air and moved into the cauldron. "1,000 lotus leaves," shouted Mr. Huo. Immediately after, 1,000 lotus leaves moved towards the cauldron. The 1,000 lotus leaves couldn't be cooked at the same speed, though, because of the fire. "I will help you," said Mr. Kai in a low voice. His incredibly strong soul came to wrap up the leaves and disperse them evenly in above the fire, enabling them to gradually melt into the sanguine flames. That part was very difficult, but was crucial as well. At that moment, Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai were anxiously frowning. They released the entire strength of their souls, which made cold sweat unceasingly drip from their bodies. It was consuming all of their soul strength and pushing them to the limit. At that moment, the lotus leaves were starting to slide to the side. Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai started shaking. Had they failed? At that moment, the great soul, which had been wrapping up theirs, disappeared as well. In a flash, the wonderful feeling, which had invaded their hearts before, disappeared. Hopelessness replaced their positive feelings. Their strength wasn't sufficient to refine Xuan-level pills of medium quality. They didn't control the strength of their soul with enough mastery. Maybe after breaking through to the fourth Xianxia layer, they would be able to achieve their aim. The strength of their souls had already come out of the cauldron, however. At that moment, the strength of a soul kept moving into the cauldron. It wrapped up the 1,000 lotus leaves and put them into the sanguine flames. A bright and resplendent red light emerged in the atmosphere. It almost looked like the lotus leaves were about to blossom. It was splendid. It's Lin Feng. He hasn't given up. Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai's hearts were pounding. They released the strength of their soul once again. One took control of the spiritual herbs and the other took control of the temperature control. After a brief moment, all the spiritual herbs had melted. At that moment, bright red lotus flowers had appeared on the lotus leaves. It was absolutely gorgeous. "Close!" shouted Mr. Huo. The lotus flowers slowly closed themselves. Immediately after, the fire lost in intensity. The smell of the pills was getting stronger and stronger. A bright and resplendent red light was illuminating the atmosphere and kept revolving above the mouth of the cauldron. "Mr. Kai!" shouted Mr. Huo. He then yelled again. His voice was making the atmosphere vibrate. "Finish the pill!" Boom! A bright and resplendent red light burst from the cauldron. Mr. Kai had anticipated this already. He jumped up in the air, breaking through the ceiling, abruptly raised his hand and grabbed something within the red light. He immediately came back down and opened the palm of his hand. Amazingly, a small oval object appeared. It was illuminated by a red light which kept fluttering around it. "It's finished! It's a success!" The three of them suddenly looked truly excited. They had worked together, relying on 3 very strong cultivators' strength. They had all poured endless effort into this process and become closer because of it. It sounded simple, but concocting Xuan-level spirit blood pills had sucked up a lot of their energy. Besides, at that moment, Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai felt like he was going to collapse. "Mr. Huo, this time, Lin Feng is the one who has used the most strength to concoct that Xuan-level spirit blood pill. He is also the one who has provided us with the recipe. Finally, at the most crucial moment, he is also the one saved the situation. If he hadn't been there, we wouldn't have been able to refine that spirit blood pill. Therefore, it belongs to Lin Feng. What do you think?" said Mr. Kai. They had only prepared the ingredients to concoct the pill. Besides, obtaining 1 pill was already an exceptional success for them, let alone making more. "I, of course, have no objection to that. The pill belongs to Lin Feng," said Mr. Huo while smiling and nodding. When Lin Feng heard them, a warm feeling invaded his heart. In the continent, there were many evildoers who constantly plotted against other people. But there were also many people who were very kind and who were honest and sincere to others. Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai belonged to the second category of people. That pill was Xuan-level spirit blood pill of medium quality. It would have been incredibly useful to them, particularly if it helped them advance before a potentially fatal battle, but they preferred giving it to Lin Feng. Of course, it was because they were very honest. Besides, Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai were very good friends already, and neither would disagree. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. "Mr. Huo, Mr. Kai, the 3 of us being together to concoct the pills was absolutely essential. This is the result of our teamwork, and it is a success for us as a group. Nobody has more merit than the other. As far as the pill recipe is concerned, I had already promised it to Mr. Huo, so it doesn't count. Therefore, it is not my recipe, and the pill does not belong to me." Lin Feng refused to take the spirit blood pill. If he wanted to kill people, he used his sword. But if people were kind to him, he was happy to make friends with them. "No, in terms of strength, that pill is very beneficial to you," said Mr. Huo while shaking his head. "Mr. Huo, that pill would be very beneficial to me. However, it would be better if one of you took it. With my current strength, taking the pill would be a waste. I would not be able to absorb the full power of the pill. It would be better if one of you took it. If you become stronger, that will also help me." Lin Feng once more declined the 2 old men's offer. Actually, Lin Feng was just stating facts. A cultivator of the Ling Qi layer taking a Xuan-level pill of medium quality was a waste. He would not be able to absorb even half of its power. "Mr. Huo, you can take the pill," said Mr. Kai, not trying to convince Lin Feng anymore. Instead, he was giving it to Mr. Huo. But Mr. Huo also shook his head and said, "Old friend, even though you are not as good as me at concocting pills, you are still stronger than me. This pill is for you. It would be more appropriate for you to take it." "Stop talking nonsense. Since when am I not as good as you at concocting pills?" said Mr. Kai angrily. If you're not taking it, you can try to give it to Lin Feng again, said Mr. Huo with a disdainful expression on his face which made Lin Feng smile wryly. How come these two were talking about concocting ability again? I don't know, but Mr. Huo, Mr. Kai, that pill must be taken as soon as possible for maximum potency. It doesn't matter if you are not interested. When Lin Feng finished talking, he immediately made an eat gesture to them by placing his fingers to his mouth. Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai looked at each other, and both immediately burst into a fit of laughter at the same time. After Lin Feng had left, Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai remained in the room where they were concocting the pills. Old friend, seriously, you are younger than me, yet your cultivation level is higher than mine. You are already at the peak of the third Chuan Qi layer, and your natural talent is extremely high. These spirit blood pills increase the strength of the blood vessels and make the soul much stronger. If you take it, you would have high chance of breaking through to the fourth Chuan Qi layer. Even in a city as vast as Celestial River, we would still have absolute power. Mr. Huo was looking at Mr. Kai in a solemn and respectful way. Therefore, old friend, we shouldn't fight again. Mr. Kai was a bit surprised. He remained silent for a moment and finally nodded while saying, "All right. Old friend, don't be so serious. In the future, with Lin Feng's natural talent and the earth fusion, we will have even more good pills. Do you think that I will not take any in the future?" Huh! Mr. Kai was a bit surprised. He was staring at Mr. Huo and said, "What you mean is?" Mr. Huo slightly nodded and said, "You guessed right, I am getting ready to follow Lin Feng." Follow Lin Feng? Mr. Kai's pupils shrank. Lin Feng had broken through to the 8th Ling Qi layer, but Mr. Huo was a strong cultivator of the 3rd Chuan Qi layer. Surprisingly, he wanted to follow Lin Feng. "Indeed, follow Lin Feng," said Mr. Huo, sounding absolutely serious. He then said, sounding solemn and respectful, "Old friend, deep in your heart, you're also able to evaluate Lin Feng's ability to concoct pills." Mr. Kai frowned and then said while nodding, "Earth fusion, that exceptional soul strength, and Lin Feng's level of talent, his destiny is to become a great alchemist." "You're wrong, old friend," said Mr. Huo while shaking his head. "I'm wrong. Indeed, you are wrong. His earth fusion, his amazing soul strength, he's not only good for concocting pills. Lin Feng is extremely good at everything. Provided that he's willing to do something, he always manages to master it. He can become a monstrously strong cultivator. He can become an alchemist, a blacksmith, a commander, anything. He only has to be willing to do something and he'll be able to achieve it. If we are patient, we will see incredibly wonderful things happen." Mr. Huo was speaking slowly. Mr. Kai's eyes were twinkling. Indeed, with the earth fusion and his incredible soul strength, Lin Feng would be able to accomplish anything, only relying on his monstrous talent. Old friend, you have observed Lin Feng's behavior and ability with your own eyes. He is worth trusting. You know, we may be cultivators of the Chuan Qi layer, but we are not that young anymore. We might not be able to have any more breakthroughs in this lifetime. Our lifespan is not limitless. Nowadays, we have a certain reputation in Celestial River, but it also has its limits and will eventually fade. Following Lin Feng will provide us with many new opportunities. When Mr. Kai heard Mr. Huo, he shivered. Indeed, ordinary people had a life expectancy of 100 years. For people of the Qi and Ling Qi layers, provided that they were strong and healthy, could usually hope to live until 150 years old. Besides, cultivators of the Chuan Qi layer could to live to the age of 200 years old, but that was the maximum. However, for those who could become amazingly strong cultivators, it was a different story. They could live until the age of 500 years old. Such cultivators could often reach the heavens on the path of cultivation after 300 years. Even though Mr. Huo and Mr. Kai had a prestigious status in Celestial River, but on the scale of the continent, they were nobodies. Besides, sooner or later, they would reach their limit, then become weaker, and they wouldn't have the opportunity to improve their cultivation anymore. Following someone strong and making them stronger is easy, but providing help when it is needed the most is difficult. Old friend, what Lin Feng needs now is assistance. If we follow him, he will be truly grateful. Besides, on the day when Lin Feng reaches the heavens, if you only want to help him become even greater at that moment, will he pay attention to you? Mr. Huo was speaking slowly. Old friend, we cannot wait for Lin Feng to become extremely powerful to follow him. Now, we have a great opportunity, and it will enable us to obtain some power and influence too. We have the opportunity to follow a genius, isn't that formidable? Besides, if we follow Lin Feng, we might get the chance to become stronger cultivators and not have to worry about our lifespan. Wait for Lin Feng to be influential and then follow him, whispered Mr. Kai. Could we really become stronger and no longer await our death? All right, old friend, take your time to think about it. First, take a spirit blood pill to break through to the next layer. I will help you absorb it, said Mr. Huo, interrupting Mr. Kai's train of thought. Mr. Kai nodded and said, all right. When they finished talking, the two old men walked to the secret room. A month had passed, and Celestial River was going through some turbulent times. In the western part of Celestial River, there were some of the strongest cultivators of the Hao Yue sect. In the northern part, there were some amazingly strong cultivators of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village. Besides, there were even some extremely strong cultivators who had come from other distant places. For example, there were some extremely strong cultivators from the Luo Xia sect, the Imperial City, the Wan Shu sect, the Yu clan, and the Imperial clan. All of these groups of people had sent people to Celestial River. Apart from these people, there were also some unknown people whose influence was unknown. The entire city of Celestial River had been encircled. It was only possible to get into the city, but leaving was impossible. No matter who, they couldn't take half a step outside of the ancient city of Celestial River. Everybody only had one goal: obtain the Heavenly Dragon Cauldron, one of the 10 legendary cauldrons. It was a treasure which dated back to the ancient times, but nobody knew exactly how useful it was. But since it had become one of the 10 legendary cauldrons, it probably was an incredible treasure. That object didn't belong to the history of Zhu Yue, but to the history of the continent of the 9 clouds. If some people in the continent knew that one of the 10 legendary cauldrons was in Celestial River, it would turn into a bloodbath. Apart from Zhu Yue cultivators, if people other countries learnt that the precious treasure was in Zhu Yue, they would also send forces to take it. At that moment in Celestial River, in a thatched hut, there was a silhouette wearing a bamboo hat. That person was wearing ragged clothes and was sitting on the ground. Their head was hanging low. However, an evil light was flashing in the person's eyes. "A bunch of bastards," said that person in an evil voice. The person's eyes were dark green and looked extremely cold. The person was the one who had obtained the Heavenly Dragon Cauldron, Mo Kang Lan. After everything happened, he hadn't thought that the situation would turn out so difficult. After Mo Kang Lan obtained the ancient cauldron, his escape had been obstructed by a myriad of people who wanted to kill him. He wanted to rush out of Celestial River, but he had nearly been killed. Later on, more and more strong cultivators had been gathering around the city. Mo Kang Lan had no possibility of escape. He was completely encircled. At that moment, he was severely injured. Even though he had been injured, he had also killed a certain number of his pursuers. These days, Mo Kang Lan was like a beggar who nobody wanted to be associated with. He was chased by a myriad of people who wanted to kill him. He was under extreme pressure. Mo Kang Lan was breathing heavily. Pure chi was revolving around his body. His chi was unstable. During that short time, he swallowed an incredible quantity of pure chi, but horrible things were progressively approaching him. It seemed like oblivion was awaiting. At that moment, Mo Kang Lan frowned. An evil expression flashed in his eyes. In the distance, some people were moving towards him. "Sister, there is a thatched hut there. Let's go and rest there," said a girl. Immediately after, everybody started walking towards the hut. Mo Kang Lan was in corner. He was dispirited. A short moment after, 3 beautiful silhouettes entered the thatched hut. "Sister, look, there's somebody here. Let's switch to another place," said the younger girl in a soft voice. "Why would we? Let's make him get the hell out of here," said the other one aggressively. Immediately after, she arrived on Mo Kang Lan's side and said, sounding ice cold, "We belong to the Luo Xia sect and need to have a rest. Leave and find another place to stay." "Switch to another place?" said Mo Kang Lan with a strange expression on his face. He slowly raised his head. His face was filled with an evil expression which made the 3 people shiver. Their facial expressions drastically changed. Slash, slash. Several vines appeared in the air in a flash. The girl's body was constricted by the vines, which were sucking the blood and flesh from under her skin. Ah, a horrible shriek spread in the air. The 2 other people started running away, but in a flash, another vine moved towards one of the girls and firmly wrapped around her body. "Don't kill me," desperately shouted that girl. Immediately after, her body turned into a pile of skin and bones which hit the floor. 2 girls had already been killed. From the 3 girls, there was only one left. "Mo Kang Lan, surprisingly, you're here," said a cold voice. Immediately after, the thatched hut was completely frozen. Mo Kang Lan was shivering. He was unable to deal with the younger girl. Boom! An ice chi rushed into the thatched hut, and Mo Kang Lan immediately tried to leave. Mo Kang Lan, I've been chasing you for such a long time, you already want to escape, said that ice-cold voice. Bing, he, tang. When the young girl heard these incredibly evil shouts, she immediately sat down onto the ground. When she saw her two sisters' corpses, her body started shaking in grief. At that moment, a person entered the now empty thatched hut. The young girl slightly calmed down. She raised her head and looked at the silhouette who had just entered the thatched hut. That person was wearing a monstrous bronze mask. The girl was so terrified that her hands dug into the ground. She kept crawling backwards. The pair of eyes behind the bronze mask looked swift and fierce, ice-cold, but they didn't look at the young girl at all, as if the person was lost in thoughts. Mo Kang Lan and Bing He Teng are here, surprisingly. Besides, it seems like Mo Kang Lan still has the heavenly dragon cauldron. Bing He Teng has been chasing him, thought Ba Dao. That thatched hut wasn't far from the place where Lin Feng and him were staying. Mr. Huo's residence was very close to this place. He was walking near the thatched hut and had sensed the cold chi. He quickly approached, and then he had immediately heard Mo Kang Lan shout Bing He Teng's name. In the distance, another voice spread in the atmosphere which surprised Ba Dao and made him shiver. He jumped away. He didn't feel like creating more trouble. "Stay there," said an ice-cold voice. At the moment when Ba Dao was getting ready to leave the thatched hut, a violent energy oppressed his body. Then someone punched through the air, and the energy transformed into a blade which bombarded the atmosphere. Extremely loud explosion sounds spread through the atmosphere. The thatched was already wrecked. Ba Dao's body was completely oppressed and fell down onto the ground. There was a man in front of him who glanced at Ba Dao. It was a young man. Immediately after, he looked at the two corpses as well as the young girl sitting on the ground. "Your methods are cruel and evil," said the young man, sounding ice-cold while releasing deadly chi. "I didn't kill them," said Ba Dao, sounding cold and detached, but his interlocutor didn't pay attention to him, and his deadly chi was becoming even denser. "Do you think that I would believe you?" said the young man, sounding ice-cold. "You kill my two sister disciples and want to do evil things to my other sister disciple. I caught you red-handed and now you want to escape." "He didn't kill them," said the girl sitting on the ground while standing up. She looked at the young man in an ice-cold way. "Fellow disciples, a moment ago her brother disciple was near the thatched hut. He should have noticed that her two sisters being killed, but at the moment when they shouted for help, he did not come to help. He had just arrived after Ba Dao entered the hut. That was her brother disciple. How ridiculous. The young man couldn't deal with the murderer, so he wanted to use Ba Dao as a scapegoat. "Sister, don't worry. Since I am here, you don't need to be afraid of being bullied. Besides, I will avenge our two sisters." Just as the young girl had guessed, that young man really wanted to make Ba Dao a scapegoat. If he and his sister came out safe and sound while the two others had been killed, how would he be able to explain why he hadn't stopped the murderer? Wouldn't he lose face? "Huh," Ba Dao frowned. That young girl guessed right. That young man intended to make him as a scapegoat. Was it that easy, though? "Since you want to kill him, what can I do? But I know that he hasn't killed them," said the young girl, looking disgusted. "You don't know how to differentiate good from bad," said the young man. His facial expression looked strict and rigid. He then added, "If you had been raped and killed by him, isn't revenge important? Wu Gang, you're really shameless." That young girl looked slightly pale and her face was distorted. At the same time, Ba Dao realized what was going on as well. That guy wanted to kill him. "Yun Zai, you are so naive. You're not prepared to accept some things, but I like you that way. You're so innocent. Unfortunately, the only thing we can have is a one-night stand. You are not wife material," said Wu Gang while smiling coldly. He had always been interested in Yun Zai, but she had never been interested in him. Proud and ambitious as he was uncomfortable not getting what he wanted. However, he now had the opportunity to make his evil thoughts come to reality at that moment. When Yun Zai heard Wu Gang, her face turned deathly pale. He was really shameless. "Sister, don't worry, I will kill him first and then I will take care of you," said Wu Gang while smiling. Immediately after, he looked at Ba Dao in an ice-cold way. His eyes were filled with murderous intentions. Ba Dao remained silent. A light flashed and his moon-breaking blade appeared in his hand. A piercingly cold and extremely brutal energy emerged from the blade. "You're not weak. 7th Ling Chi layer and your weapon is a spiritual weapon of higher quality. However, as before, you have run into a dead end," said Wu Gang while smiling coldly. He was one of the most outstanding disciples of the Luo Xia sect. He had broken through to the 9th Ling Qi layer. His silhouette flickered, and he then took a huge step. An illusion on his side transformed into opaque rosy clouds which filled the atmosphere. It was endless, mysterious, and unfathomable. It was the sunset cloud's skill. "Slash!" shouted Ba Dao. Ba Dao's blade lacerated the air. It seemed like the atmosphere was being torn apart. After that, his blade fell down onto the opponent's attack. It seemed like the atmosphere was torn apart. After that, that blade lacerated the endless and mysterious energy. It felt like that blade was easily cutting through the energy, like his blade was cutting air. The sunset cloud's skill was a die-level skill. Sunset clouds emerged from the cultivator's palm. It was vast and boundless, but very difficult to carry out. However, in case of success, it was a terrifying attack. Boom! The enemy's hand landed on Ba Dao's body, which made him groan in pain, and his body was projected backwards. That cultivator had broken through to the 9th Ling Qi layer and was close to the Xianxia layer. He could already control a meager amount of pure qi and was difficult to fight against. In Zhu Yue, the Luo Xia sect doesn't have the greatest influence, but if anyone dares look down on my sect. Except for the 8 high officials of Zhu Yue, no matter who it is, I despise them. No need to say that it especially applies to such worthless and insignificant people such as you, said Wu Gang, sounding arrogant. He was looking at Xianxia while talking as if he had been talking to her, but she didn't care about him at all. How ridiculous. Is that so? Said a voice which echoed through the atmosphere. It was extremely distinct, yet nobody was visible. Wu Gang frowned and said coldly, "Show yourself." Ba Dao was smiling except for the 8 high officials. Wu Gang despised everybody else. Very quickly, Wu Gang was going to realize that he was a fool. You dare say such arrogant things, and now you don't even know the location of the person you are speaking down to. How ridiculous, said Ba Dao coldly when he saw that Wu Gang looked so arrogant. Shut the hell up. It's probably a shameless liar just like you, just another shameless person, said Wu Gang, sounding cold and detached, but when finished talking, his heart twitched. He abruptly turned his head around, and a distorted expression appeared on his face. Someone had been standing directly behind him. That person had appeared in absolute silence. That person looked clear and had limpid eyes. That person was a bit younger than Wu Gang. He looked handsome as well. His face didn't contain the least bit of shamelessness. "Who are you?" asked Wu Gang to Lin Feng coldly. He didn't recognize Lin Feng. Lin Feng gave a mysterious impression to Wu Gang. Lin Feng looked indifferent and carefree like a gentle breeze, as if Lin Feng was just an illusion on the wind. You despise everyone who looks down on your sect except for the 8 high officials. Since it's like that, there is no need to tell you anything. The only thing that you need to know is that we are enemies. That's enough. Lin Feng was smiling. A moment before, Wu Gang had said it himself, except for the 8 high officials, he despised everybody else. Even though I, Wu Gang, am very proud, is not willing to make an enemy of others without reason. If there is the possibility, I prefer making friends, said Wu Gang. Wu Gang couldn't sense Lin Feng's presence, so he was feeling unsafe. How shameless, cursed Xianxia. Wu Gang was really shameless. She felt disgusted by him. He is my friend. You wanted to kill him a moment ago. Are we friends or enemies, you tell me? Said Lin Feng while smiling coldly and pointing at Ba Dao. Wu Gang enjoyed using his power to bully those weaker than him. Well, Lin Feng could do the same. I'm giving you face, don't be shameless. I am the second best core disciple of the Luo Xia sect. What do you intend to do, acting so arrogantly in front of me? Wu Gang couldn't reply to Lin Feng's question, so he immediately became aggressive and announced his status. After mentioning the Luo Xia sect, Lin Feng would definitely be afraid. I'm so scared, said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. His silhouette flickered and he disappeared from his original position. When Lin Feng reappeared, he was within arm's reach of Wu Gang. Die! Furiously shouted Wu Gang. His sunset cloud's attack appeared again. The atmosphere was illuminated by rosy clouds. It looked incredible. The attack was just as opaque and unfathomable as before. However, the endless rosy clouds were extremely distinct for Lin Feng, who was in fusion with the earth. He shook his finger, out of which sword energies emerged and whistled in the air. He immediately attacked Wu Gang with his finger. PSH? Ah! A horrible shriek spread in the atmosphere. Wu Gang's body was projected back of 10 meters. His facial expression looked glum. At that moment, in the middle of his palm, blood was pouring down. A moment before, Lin Feng's sword-like finger had immediately pierced the palm of his hand. What a terrifying sharpness. Except for the 8 high officials, you despise everybody else. As expected, you are a real genius, said Lin Feng while laughing disdainfully on the tone of a joke. When Xianxia saw that Lin Feng had defeated Wu Gang's sunset clouds so easily and had even injured him, her beautiful eyes started twinkling. How strong. Who the hell are you? Wu Gang's palm was bleeding. He was evilly staring at Lin Feng. To which sect did Lin Feng belong? Why had he never heard about him before? Even though he had just said that, except for the 8 high officials, he despised everybody, he was just exaggerating. His ego had made him say those words. But the disciples of the other sects who could rival him were actually very few. He was well aware that they were completely different from the person who was standing before him. You are Lin Feng? At that moment, Xianxia asked in a low voice. Lin Feng's name was already famous in Celestial River. He was carefree and ruthless. He was 18 years old but had defeated Bing Yuan, the Blade Elder Leng Yue, and he had even killed 4 cultivators of the Xianxia lair. At the Luo Xia sect, many disciples were talking about Lin Feng. Xianxia had already heard about him a few times, trying to imagine what Lin Feng looked like. She had imagined that Lin Feng was arrogant and rude, but the young man who was standing there in front of her looked handsome and delicate. However, his proud temperament reminded her of the rumors surrounding Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at Xianxia and smiled. He looked handsome. He slightly nodded at her. Lin Feng's smile made Yunzai's heartbeat accelerate. He nodded. It's really Lin Feng. Since ancient times, beautiful women liked heroic men. At the Luo Xia sect, many girls wanted to see Lin Feng, that powerful and elegant young man. At that moment, Lin Feng's smile had the same effect as a gentle breeze on Yunzai's body. In comparison with Lin Feng, Wu Gang looked extremely ugly. He was far from being able to rival Lin Feng in looks. Lin Feng? Wu Gang was stupefied. When he heard that name, he suddenly looked terrified. Lin Feng was able to kill cultivators of the Xianxia lair. Besides, he had killed Bing Yuan of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village. Therefore, Lin Feng wouldn't hesitate for a moment when killing him, who belonged to the Luo Xia sect. Lin Feng, there is a misunderstanding, said Wu Gang while smiling warmly. He suddenly forgot that he wanted to kill Lin Feng a moment before. His hand was even still bleeding from the wound. A misunderstanding, said Lin Feng with a cold smile on the corner of his mouth. Ba Dao, is there a misunderstanding? He and the girls belong to the Luo Xia sect. Mo Kang Lan killed the 2 other girls. He perfectly knows about that. Because he cannot defeat Mo Kang Lan, he used me as a scapegoat. Besides, from his previous words, it is clear that he was definitely planning to rape and kill the remaining girl, and then accuse me of doing it. He perfectly knew everything from the beginning. There is no misunderstanding. Ba Dao's voice sounded ice cold, which made Wu Gang's facial expression turn glum. It is really a misunderstanding. I didn't know that you were Lin Feng's friend, continued Wu Gang while smiling. So what? You don't think that it is shameful to come and use someone else as scapegoat? Now I feel like killing you, and that means I will kill you, said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. He then started walking slowly, which made Wu Gang's smile turn rigid. Lin Feng, nothing has to be set in stone. You can give me some conditions to live. Besides, my sister disciple, Yunzai, is pure and fresh. If you like her, you can play with her as you wish. What do you think? Wu Gang was slowly stepping backwards. He didn't want to fight. His courage had already been crushed. He now knew Lin Feng's identity. He didn't dare to fight anymore. You're so shameless, said Lin Feng, whose silhouette flickered just like an illusion. At that moment, Wu Gang's hand shook as well. An incredible quantity of poisonous qi invaded the atmosphere, which surprised Lin Feng, who immediately stopped. He raised his hand, and the poisonous qi immediately dispersed. However, at that moment, Wu Gang suddenly grabbed Yunzai and was staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng, look at my sister disciple. She is so fresh and pure. Besides, she likes you. Wouldn't it be a waste if she died? Lin Feng was surprised. He hadn't thought that he was that kind of person. He had taken Yunzai as a hostage to threaten Lin Feng. What did he intend to do? Yunzai was also his fellow disciple. She wasn't Lin Feng's friend. However, Wu Gang was taking her as a hostage. Lin Feng was really startled. Yunzai hadn't thought that Wu Gang would do such a thing either. What Wu Gang was doing was utterly illogical. However, Yunzai was looking at Lin Feng with pleading eyes. She had already seen Mo Kang Lan kill her 2 sister disciples, and then the ugly Wu Gang had shown himself. She felt hopeless, lonely, and desperate. She wished someone would show her some sympathy and consideration. The daring young hero whom she had wished would come and save her had appeared. Besides, he was very handsome. That was like a ray of light in her heart. She had a strange sensation, though, as if she had been floating through the air. She had the impression that her heart had become vast and boundless. Taking advantage of a woman who was lost in her heart was extremely easy. "How shameless," said Lin Feng coldly while looking at Wu Gang. "So what? Lin Feng, surely you can't stand seeing such a pure and beautiful flower fade. Look how delicate her skin is. She's just turned 17, said Wu Gang, who ignored Lin Feng's words. He just kept talking. An ice-gold-looking blade suddenly pressed against Yunzai's face. When Lin Feng saw the girl's pure and beautiful eyes, he felt like he couldn't leave her and had to do something, even though he didn't even know her. He, the power of a woman's beauty is impressive. Sister, don't you always talk about Lin Feng? Now it seems that Lin Feng is also interested in you. Look how good he is to you. It seems like you two are a perfect match, said Wu Gang while slowly pulling back Yunzai. Yunzai had mixed feelings. Wu Gang was her fellow disciple and acted so shamelessly and evil. Wu Gang was using her life to threaten a stranger. Lin Feng and her didn't know each other, but Lin Feng wasn't going to attack Wu Gang to save her. She was in a difficult position. Far away in the distance, some silhouettes were moving towards the hut. When Lin Feng saw that there were some silhouettes flying through the sky, he frowned. Besides, Wu Gang looked delighted. His dagger suddenly disappeared. He kept dragging Yunzai backwards. He shouted loudly, "The elders have arrived at the perfect time. Someone wants to kill us, the disciples of the Luo Xia sect." These people who were coming precisely belonged to the Luo Xia sect. In a flash, they arrived on Wu Gang's side. "Wu Gang, what's going on?" asked that person coldly while glancing at the corpses on the ground. "Elder Lin Feng is a criminal and attacked me by surprise. He also killed some of our disciples. He also planned to rape Yunzai, my fellow disciple. Luckily, I risked my life to protect her, preventing Lin Feng from attacking. I am lucky that you arrived at the critical moment," said Wu Gang, which made the people of the Luo Xia sect coldly stare at Lin Feng. "Elder, Wu Gang is shameless. The one who killed my two fellow disciples was someone else. Besides, the one who wanted to rape me is Wu Gang. He just took a dagger and put it against my face, threatening Lin Feng," said Yunzai honestly. Wu Gang was way too shameless and trying to accuse others. "Sister, I took you to threaten Lin Feng? What is the nature of your relationship with Lin Feng? I know that Lin Feng's words made you confused, but in front of the elders, you don't need to lie," said Wu Gang coldly. Yunzai's face turned deathly pale. She was speechless. "Yunzai, stop causing trouble," said the great elder, sounding indifferent. Yunzai was astonished. She looked at him and said, "You don't believe me either. It's the truth, it was really Wu Gang who did all these things." "All right, shut up now," shouted the great elder. Yunzai started shaking when she heard him. Besides, an indifferent smile appeared on Wu Gang's face at the same time. What a naive girl. Wu Gang was the genius of the Luo Xia sect. He had been trained for many years in the sect. The elder had obviously witnessed what had happened, but was turning a blind eye to the truth. Besides, she wasn't that important in the sect when compared with Wu Gang. Besides, elders, we all seniors, they didn't need to know any of the details. If there was a problem, they would always take Wu Gang's side and protect him. The great elder looked at Lin Feng with an ice-cold glare. "Lin Feng, how audacious! You dared kill members of the Luo Xia sect," said another elder coldly. Immediately after, several silhouettes flickered and the members of the Luo Xia sect encircled Lin Feng. When Lin Feng saw these people, a cold expression appeared in his eyes. A moment before, Wu Gang had used him as a scapegoat, and now these people, because of Wu Gang's lies, wanted to kill him too. Lin Feng understood things much better than Yunzai. How could he not understand the morally corrupt actions of these people? Nonetheless, was killing Lin Feng really that easy? "Elders, you must all stop immediately," said Yunzai while looking at the elders surrounding Lin Feng. She looked nervous and yelled, "This really has nothing to do with Lin Feng. How can you all be so unfair? Arg, shut up!" Yunzai's body flew away and crashed into the ground. She raised her head and saw that she was struck by her own master. She felt extremely cold in her heart, cold to the extent that it was piercing to the bones. She devoted her life to the sect, rarely leaving it to the extent that it had almost become her permanent home. She had little experience in the real world. Therefore, there were many things which she didn't understand. In her heart, she had always had the feeling that the sect was a place where she would always be safe. But at that moment, her heart had been invaded with bitter feelings. She had just seen the true face of her sect. She had seen the coldness and cruelty of these people. That coldness was enough to make her feel hopeless. At that moment, Yunzai's world had been crushed. The sect was no longer the same in her heart. She wasn't seeing any of the warmth, only desolate coldness. When she saw her master's cold and indifferent expression, she finally realized that that world wasn't as simple and pure as she thought. The people of the Luo Xia sect weren't as kind and caring as she thought. A single teardrop slowly ran down her cheek. It was a tear of hopelessness. She had also realized that no matter what she said, no matter how loud she shouted, nobody would pay attention to her. When Lin Feng saw Yunzai's teardrop, he sighed. Yunzai was way too naive. She had never understood that there were evil people running her sect. That was the hypocrisy of the world. It wasn't about who was in the right or wrong. It was more about understanding the other party's real objective. Sister, because of a stranger you're now suffering, and you surprisingly dared humiliate an elder in front of everybody, said Wu Gang indifferently. Yunzai looked at him in an ice-cold way. Everything was happening because of Wu Gang. He was such a disgusting person, but Wu Gang didn't care about her opinion. Wu Gang was just thinking that it would be a pity if he didn't have the opportunity to play with such a beautiful girl. Elders, Lin Feng is a shameless enemy. Not only did he attack me by surprise, but he has also killed 2 of our disciples and fooled Yunzai. He is a worthless and disgusting animal. He must die. Wu Gang turned around and smiled coldly. His face was filled with murderous intentions. Indeed, that disgusting person must die. We must avenge our disciples, said another elder immediately. Kill him. We'll definitely kill him, said all the elders consecutively, as if they were judges giving Lin Feng the death sentence. In their eyes, Lin Feng's life was already in their hands. If they wanted to kill him, they could kill him. Amongst these elders of the Luo Xia sect, 3 of them were at the first Xianxia layer, 2 at the second Xianxia layer, and 1 at the third Xianxia layer. In such circumstances, Lin Feng was unable to escape even if he grew wings. Extremely swift and fierce sword chi emerged and bombarded the atmosphere. At that moment, a purple light shot high into the sky above Lin Feng's head, making him look like a ferocious warrior. What, he wants to fight? The members of the Luo Xia sect laughed coldly and joked. He is a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer. Even if he relies on external factors to increase his cultivation abilities, how could he resist our elders? Yes, he just wants to die. A gigantic qi emerged in the atmosphere. The cultivators of the Ling Qi layer all moved back, and only those of the Xianxia layer continued surrounding Lin Feng. They had all heard about that day when Lin Feng had fought against the Dream Pavilion, and that he had killed 4 cultivators of the Xianxia layer. Even though they had only broken through to the first Xianxia layer, they had probably been careless when dealing with him. At that moment, all the elders were surrounding Lin Feng. How could he resist? You still want to kill him? Does that mean that you don't believe me? Said Yunzai in a quiet voice. Was it that they didn't believe her or that they chose to ignore her? They all knew the truth perfectly, but it was much easier for them to just kill Lin Feng and settle the matter. Yunzai stood up and said to the elders, Elders, I swear that my 2 fellow disciples were killed by an evil man whom we met when we went into the hut. He also wanted to kill me, but at that moment, someone, whose name apparently was Bing He Teng, appeared, and then the man stopped paying attention to me. Then they both left. Wu Gang perfectly knows what happened, but he doesn't want to lose face. He wanted to find a scapegoat. He was planning to rape me and kill me, then blame the one in the bronze mask. Fortunately, Lin Feng appeared, but Wu Gang shamelessly captured me as a hostage and threatened Lin Feng, which is why Lin Feng didn't kill him. After that, all of you arrived. I would prefer death over living a lie. What a naive little girl. How foolish. All these people of the Luo Xia sect were coldly staring at Yunzai. Get lost, shouted a powerful voice that filled everyone's ears. It made Yunzai's entire body shake. If you try to prevent us from avenging our sect members, we will bury you here with them, shouted an incredibly aggressive voice which made Yunzai's heart pound faster. She had lost all hope. It seemed like everything she had done had been useless. No problem, kill me too, said Yunzai. At that moment, a smile appeared on her face, a smile of agony. Suddenly, a deadly qi emerged from her body. Everybody was surprised. It doesn't look good, cried Lin Feng in alarm. His body flickered and he appeared behind Yunzai's body. It was already too late, though. Yunzai groaned. She slammed the deadly qi into her chest and blood gushed from her mouth. A flower which had yet to blossom had already withered. Lin Feng caught Yunzai's body and his face turned deathly pale. Yunzai killed herself. Surprisingly, she took her own life. How foolish. What a naive young girl. She was so young. She was only 17 years old. She was supposed to be experiencing the most beautiful years of her life. However, because she had discovered how bitter reality really was, she couldn't stand it and killed herself. It shouldn't have ended that way. The members of the Luo Xia sect were astonished. Yunzai's suicide was unexpected. However, they were only surprised for a few seconds, and cold expressions quickly reappeared on their faces again. In their opinion, her death was insignificant. She had died, so what? Yunzai's body softly collapsed into Lin Feng's chest. Her head was raised. Blood was flowing out of her little mouth. Her naive young eyes were looking at Lin Feng, and she was still smiling. "I'm sorry. I didn't have the chance to fight for you. All of this happened because of me." Lin Feng was wiping the blood from her mouth with the greatest care. He was unceasingly shaking his head. When Lin Feng looked at her deathly pale smile, he could see that she was very beautiful and soft-hearted. Unfortunately, the flower had chosen to wither over blossoming into a cruel world. "I know that it is not because they don't believe me, it is that they disdain my words. I couldn't convince them. Therefore, death was the only solution." Yunzai's voice gradually lost in intensity. Lin Feng raised his head and felt like he was going to cry. He wasn't like Yunzai, he wasn't naive. He was convinced that his efforts would bring him good luck. However, he had already experienced the bitterness of the cruelty of people in his past life. "Lin Feng, I'm already a young woman and I have no one to love. Please grant me my first kiss," said Yunzai suddenly with a shy smile. Immediately after, she added, "Just consider this as the last wish of a fellow cultivator." "All right," said Lin Feng while solemnly nodding. How could he refuse the last request of such a young and naive girl? He slightly lowered his head and wiped away the blood as he softly kissed her warm lips. She looked beautiful and resplendent. "So that's what it feels like to kiss someone." Yunzai's face slightly turned red. Immediately after, her beautiful naive eyes slowly closed. When Lin Feng saw her close her eyes, he raised his head while looking to the sky to stop his tears and took a deep, agonizing breath. "Kill! Kill! Kill! Kill!" Lin Feng was shouting these words. His voice was extremely loud and filled with fury. In the air, 3 silhouettes appeared and rushed towards him. An incredibly strong and powerful ice-cold chi suddenly emerged in the atmosphere, enveloping everybody. The powerful chi made the ground vibrate. That purple light was Lin Feng's signal for Mr. Huo, Mr. Kai, as well as Meng Qing. They had all seen the purple light and rushed to that location. It was just that they hadn't shown themselves until now. When the people of the Luo Xia sect sensed the terrifying energies, their hearts started pounding. What a terrifying chi! The people of the Luo Xia sect were looking at the 3 people who had just landed next to Lin Feng, which made them shake from head to toe. They had heard that 2 strong cultivators stood on Lin Feng's side. There was the old man, Mr. Huo, and a delicate-looking girl whose face was covered with a fine veil. But at that moment, there was one more person, Mr. Kai. And besides, Mr. Kai's chi was terrifying. "Mr. Kai, Mr. Huo, kill them, all of them." Lin Feng's chi was getting even more brutal. Mr. Kai and Mr. Huo slightly nodded. Their terrifying chi was getting more and more powerful, especially the chi from Mr. Kai. The strength of the chi that he was releasing already exceeded that of the 3rd Xuan Chi layer. 4th Xuan Chi layer! The elders of the Luo Xia sect were suddenly feeling uneasy. They were furious. On Lin Feng's side, there was another powerful cultivator. He was even stronger than Mr. Huo and the girl. He had broken through to the 4th Xuan Chi layer. At the scale of the Xuan Chi layer, 1 layer already constituted a huge difference. How foolish! Hideous facial expressions appeared on all these people's faces. They wanted to kill Lin Feng. At this moment, they were the ones in danger. "Lin Feng, she still has 1 breath left in her body. I will give her a pill. A miracle could still happen," said Mr. Huo while putting a pill in Yunzai's mouth. Immediately after, the strength of the pure chi spread through her body and his finger pressed between her eyebrows. Lin Feng was stupefied. He could sense it. He was dumbstruck. Indeed, Yunzai still had a breath in her lungs. She was extremely weak. A moment ago, Lin Feng's heart had been filled with so much hatred and murderous intentions that he hadn't noticed it. "Mr. Huo," said Lin Feng, whose eyes were filled with hope. A small light appeared between her eyebrows. It was pulsating. Then Mr. Huo took his finger off her head and looked at Lin Feng. "She will not die within the next 7 days, but the blood vessels are completely destroyed. She's severely injured. She will not live past 7 days." Lin Feng was dumbstruck and hastily replied, "Is there no solution?" "There is one," said Mr. Huo. He then remained silent for a moment and said, while frowning, "But only monstrously powerful pills can save her life." Pills? Lights were flashing in Lin Feng's eyes. Immediately after, he handed Yunzai over to Meng Qing and said, "Meng Qing, take care of her." Meng Qing looked at Lin Feng. She was surprised, but immediately after she nodded and took Yunzai in her arms. After that, Lin Feng handed Yunzai over to Meng Qing. He turned around and stared at Wu Gang. His terrifying deadly qi turned into a sword which immediately rushed towards Wu Gang. Wu Gang couldn't help but move backwards. His face turned deathly pale. He was terrified of Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked frightening. His deadly qi was monstrous in power. "If I don't kill you, it means that justice doesn't exist," said Lin Feng as his voice filled with killing intent. He then said, "Mr. Kai, Mr. Huo, kill them all. Sorry for the trouble. It's been a while since I last fought. I still haven't enjoyed a good fight since I broke through to the 4th Xuan Qi layer," said Mr. Kai while smiling. His silhouette flickered, and in a flash he disappeared. "Ah!" In a flash, a horrible shriek spread in the atmosphere. Mr. Kai's palm immediately crashed into an elder's body. Immediately, that elder's chest started burning and a black mark appeared. That elder was at the 1st Xuan Qi layer. He had just died. The difference between a cultivator of the 1st Xuan Qi layer and the 4th Xuan Qi layer was enormous. There was a difference of 3 layers. It was a gigantic gap. The strength between layers was even more vast than the Ling Qi layer. In a flash, the elder was killed. The elders of the Luo Xia sect were all incomparably pale. They were all cultivators of the Xuan Qi layer. They were all treasures in their sect, but at that moment, they could easily get killed at any moment. Besides, there was one thing that scared them. A moment ago, Mr. Kai had killed a cultivator of the Xuan Qi layer in one strike. Well, what about them? A sensation of danger invaded their hearts. Maybe they made a mistake on that day. "Everybody act together and defeat the enemies," said the leader of the elders, who was the one at the 3rd Xuan Qi layer. But when he finished talking, a terrifying fireball appeared. Mr. Huo was attacking him. "Old friend, I'll keep this one under control. You kill the others. I will see how much time you need," said Mr. Huo. He was going to fight against the cultivator of the 3rd Xuan Qi layer. The other ones had only broken through to the 1st and 2nd Xuan Qi layer. Mr. Kai would easily kill them all. He wouldn't need much time to deal with them. "All right." Mr. Kai nodded and took a huge step. An insanely violent pure qi started spinning around his body, which made everybody's heartbeat accelerate. What a monstrous ability. Mr. Huo was going to take care of the elder at the 3rd Xuan Qi layer, so how would the others resist Mr. Kai without him? They had absolutely no hope. They would never be able to resist the power without the support of a stronger cultivator. At that moment, Mr. Kai was moving towards a cultivator of the 1st Xuan Qi layer. That person didn't even try to release his qi. He immediately tried to run away. However, how could a cultivator at the 1st Xuan Qi layer be faster than one of the 4th Xuan Qi layer? In a flash, a monstrous force descended from the sky. He abruptly turned his head around and immediately saw a brutal attack crash into him. Another cultivator of the Xuan Qi layer had just died. Dread was invading their hearts at that moment. The cultivator of the 4th Xuan Qi layer was way too terrifying. Their hearts were filled with regret. They regretted siding with Wu Gang and trying to kill Lin Feng while letting Yunzai die. Now, not only would they not have the power to kill Lin Feng, but instead Lin Feng was repaying their hostility several times over. "Wu Gang, bastard," cursed the members of the Luo Xia sect at that moment. That bastard had provoked Lin Feng, and the consequences would be terrifying. They could all possibly die today because of it. At that moment, a purple light was furiously circling Lin Feng's body. At the same time, a terrifying sword energy rose into the air and then rushed towards Wu Gang. Wu Gang's heart was pounding violently. Lin Feng was terrifying. He looked like a death god. In a flash, the purple energy wrapped around a person in front of Wu Gang. The purple energy lifted the person into the air. His legs were frenetically moving above the ground, but he was unable to escape. Lin Feng's hand was rushing through the air. The sword energy burst forth, and a blood mark appeared between that person's eyebrows. It looked like a sword had pierced through his head. "Run, run!" The other disciples were panic-stricken. They didn't want to fight at all. The elders at the Xuan Qi layer were being slaughtered by Mr. Kai. Besides, none of the disciples could fight against Lin Feng. If they couldn't escape, the only possibility was to die. It was a dead end for them. "Escape!" Lin Feng's deadly chi became even more violent. His mouth looked distorted for a moment, and then several hundred purple snakes appeared, which threw themselves at the escaping enemies, wrapping their bodies around the escaping disciples. At that moment in the air, a few silhouettes were violently struggling. "Everybody will die?" Lin Feng's voice sounded ice cold to the extent that it was piercing through to the bones. He raised both his hands high up into the air, and a sword appeared. It was made of pure chi. It looked like the sword of a war god. That sword was filled with deadly chi, sword chi, and battle energy. Besides, it was gigantic. Lin Feng slowly rose into the air. His sword was dazzling, and it suddenly shot through the air like a meteor. The entire atmosphere was consumed by a rain of blood as the sword slashed down. One sword made of chi was enough to kill all of them. There wasn't a single disciple left alive. Battle noises were unceasingly spreading through the atmosphere. Wu Gang was looking at the corpses unceasingly falling onto the ground. His heart was violently pounding, and it was getting worse each time a new corpse hit the floor. Everybody had died. Only one person was left, Lin Feng. He had meticulously killed everybody. Wu Gang raised his head and looked at Lin Feng's face. It was filled with killing intent. Fear invaded Wu Gang's entire soul. He was hopeless and terrified. "Don't kill me. I know that I was wrong," said Wu Gang while frantically shaking his hand. He finally regretted that he tried to put the blame on Lin Feng. He had invited the fury of a god of death. The arrogance had disappeared from his face. He also didn't have his evil smile anymore. Instead, there was only fear on his face. Everybody had died. All the elders of the Xuan Qi layer had died. Those of the Ling Qi layer had all been slaughtered under Lin Feng's sword made of qi. "You know that you are wrong," said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. Was admitting that he was at fault enough. "Didn't you say that I attacked you by surprise? Now I will give you the chance to attack me," said Lin Feng, sounding cold and detached. After seeing such a slaughter, how could Wu Gang still dare to fight? His body flickered, and he immediately tried to escape. After that, when Wu Gang's body was in mid-air, a purple snake immediately wrapped around him and brought him back. He appeared in front of Lin Feng, who raised his head and saw Wu Gang tied up. "You want to run away?" said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. He raised his sword. A horrible shriek spread through the air. Wu Gang's legs were both cut off to stop him running away.